Pokemon trainers, it's time. Pokemon. I feel like Wolf, especially when he had his amazing season just last year, he was using a lot of Pokemon that were just good. They were just good, strong Pokemon. I think also thinking back to 2024 as well, but I'm really thinking about the fact that he is the reigning Euic champion and that he was able to do that with a team of 6 that were just really great. Now, if you take a look at this current iteration of the team that he's using for the 2026 European International Championship, really nice, right? Giovanni Siski, you talk about the Ride who was really great with Sun. He's actually not going to bring that today. In fact, he's just going to be sticking to a more, but
your sludge bombs. So we'll have to see if that is going to be a crucial Pokemon for Giovanni here.
To keep this Chien-Pao on the field, doesn't want to risk this when you know that the follow me from the Ogre Pond is still around. Also with the Chien-Pao, with the moves that it has, Icicle Crash can miss, but this was a great call here from Wolf to get this prediction right and make sure that
that's crazy. Okay. That's insane. Okay. Anyway. We'll continue, but holy shit. Okay. I was like trying to like change my like up my sound a little bit and like okay. Anyway, this is an interesting match. I pre-watched this. There's a couple of things here that I wanted to touch on. This is a pretty crazy match. How are we already this far into it? Didn't it just start? What is going on here? Wait a minute, what? Is that like hitting stuff? Okay.
The Landorus could be an extra damage boost on top. The tool to stop that.
A reigning world champion, and Wolf Glick, the reigning EUIC champion, as well as the world champion in 2016. Both of our players are on a 7-2 record. If they lose here, they are likely out.
So, two leads
of
here.
contention to make it to the top cut of this tournament. There are a lot of
and flutter main on one side, and then the other flutter main.
stakes on the line as we enter into this game one.
So, of course, the first turn is going to be crucial. We've got both flutter mains on the field immediately, but only the flutter main on Giovanni's side of the field did get that speed boost from the booster energy, and that means that you can go for an Icy Wind and definitely put the Ogerpon slower than Landorus, opening it up to a Sludge Bomb KO. You can go for a Thunder Wave instead if you're expecting this Ogerpon to go for a Spiky Shield potentially. Or if the Ogerpon's going to be going for its terrestrialization immediately, it would be able to survive this turn guaranteed, because it will be able to get rid of the weakness to the Sludge Bomb and just be able to go on the offensive with an Ivy Cudgel. And then, depending on how the Flutter Main is trained, it might be able to be knocked out in one shot. However, we've been seeing the very supportive Flutter Mains being run incredibly defensive and can actually survive that attack.
Well, it is going to be a terrestrialization at the bare minimum from this Landorus on Geo's side. So no Terra Poison, as you mentioned. It's going to be the Terra Steel for that extra bit of defense. And Wolf decides to play a little bit safe with this Ogerpon. The Spiky Shield going to keep the Ogerpon safe for now, but the Flutter Main from Geo is ready to start taking names. The Icy Wind comes out, connects with Wolf's Flutter Main, and is going to drop its speed just ever so slightly. But where does the speed fall now, as the Landorus is able to outpace thanks to that Icy Wind speed drop? It will move first before that Flutter Main actually brings it quite low as a Sandseer Storm.
Yeah, and that speed
is going to connect on that, but the Shadow Ball responds with the choice specs right into that Flutter Main from Geo. Is going to take it out in one hit.
Awesome.
Yeah, very nicely done from Wolf there. Able to take care of all the support available on Giovanni's side in that Flutter Main on that turn one. And the terrestrialization has already been used and was not necessary on that turn. The Ogerpon did not go on the offensive with the Ivy Cudgel, and the Flutter Main did not lock into a Fairy move instead, so the Shadow Ball's still going to be doing exactly the same amount of damage into that Landorus. You also didn't get the Icy Wind into the Ogerpon, so now it's going to come down to the training of both the Landorus and the Ogerpon of which one will move first. Ogerpon is naturally faster, but if you want to prioritize extra bulk for when you're going for those follow me's to get that survival, then you might be underspin the Landorus. So that's going to be very, very crucial here. Of course, whatever's going to be coming in on Giovanni's side of the field could help support with that, because the Flutter Main did get Icy Winded. It will be slower than this Landorus, and could easily be slower, and it will definitely be slower than, I will now say, as we see the Ogerpon Wellspring joining the field for Giovanni, definitely slower than that as well.
So the speed advantage here for Geo, as the Landorus and the Ogerpon still have full HP. But for Wolf, he is locked into this Strato Ball from the Flutter Main, and also still has a couple of Pokemon at his disposal in the back, where he could shed that speed drop and bring that Flutter Main back in to re-choose a move and also shed the speed drop.
Yeah, but then you'd have to be opening yourself up to something like a Sandseer Storm on the way in. We saw that Giovanni did go for that on that first turn, respecting the option of the Follow Me. And if you go for Sandseer Storm again, that would ignore it. But of course, there is that shaky accuracy that you do need to contend with. So do you go for the consistency of the Sludge Bomb or the Earth Power? Or do you take that gamble again just to guarantee you bypass Follow Me?
We are watching matches from over the weekend.
If it does connect, and go for the Sandseer Storm
I
instead.
gotta change up the team.
Maybe the Incineroar switch is going to help out a little bit with the physical damage output of the opposing Ogerpon. We know that Ogerpons have Ivy Cudgel, that's going to be a water type attack, as well as some type of grass attack. For this particular Ogerpon on Geo's side, it is going to be Hornleech. And so with this Intimidate drop, that is going to be a great way to be able to kind of deal with that. But the Water Absorb is going to actually remove the Ivy Cudgel's ability to get damage down. Sludge Bomb is barely not a KO, and you can see why the Terra Poison is important for the Landorus to actually secure that knockout.
Yeah, but there are, of course, benefits to the Terra Steel defensively that it has over the Poison. But yeah, if it had Terra Poison instead, that would have been a KO'd Ogerpon. And very nicely done from Giovanni again, respecting the Incineroar switching in. The Flutter Main did not go on the offensive and get some extra damage with the Shadow Ball. So now Giovanni's still got full HP on both of his Pokemon here. Yes, the Incineroar has joined the field to get some fake-out pressure exerted. You could easily just go for the Protect and Spiky Shield to be able to avoid that, and then on the next turn be able to follow up with a KO into the opposing Ogerpon, because at this point it can be knocked out by either the Ogerpon or the Landorus very, very comfortably.
Yeah, and even though we do end up seeing the Landers protect, I feel like really it is on Wolf to try to get himself back into this game based on how much damage he has already taken on the Flutter Mane as well as Ogre. So what does Geo decide to do next? It's just going to be another, it's going to be an Ivy Cudgel here from Wolf's Ogre Pawn, and it's actually going to end up outspeeding the Ogre Pawn on Geo's side of the field. Geo is still able to finish off Wolf's Ogre Pawn with that Horn Leech, and that is going to be the first KO in this game.
Yeah, Giovanni's got the best prediction once again on this turn, because that could have just been the double protect to stall out the fake out. But protecting one Pokemon in the face of fake out is always incredibly brave, because if there is a double up into the Pokemon that got faked out and you didn't protect, then that goes horribly wrong. But if you double up into the Pokemon that did protect, that goes incredibly right for you, as we've just seen. The Ogre-Pon was felled completely through that Horn Leech, and the Ogre-Pon got away with it. It didn't take any damage for its troubles. Now the Flutter Mane, as we mentioned, it got rid of the speed drop. It can come back in and threaten a lot of damage once again, while still, we would assume, outspeeding both of these Pokemon. But instead, we've got the Chien-Pao. Again, should outspeed both of these Pokemon here. But it's got access to the Clear Amulet instead of the Focus Sash. And we know that Landorus is an incredibly strong Pokemon. So depending on how this Chien-Pao is trained, it might be in range of that Earth Power. And so would Incineroar be. It might
crazy important turn. This game that like it decides what happens like in the next game as well. Like the entire set.
Forced into its terastallization here, because it's got the Terra Flying to keep it completely immune from those ground type attacks.
Terra Flying is a more unique Terra type that we have seen on Incineroar, but usually it is some sort of defensive Terra, whether it's Ghost to be able to help protect this Incineroar from being faked out, or maybe it's even Grass to help you get around those pesky Amoonguss. But I think Terra Flying in this particular situation would give you a double into that Landorus. You make sure that your Incineroar can stick around. Your Chien-Pao could even get like a Sacred Sword, but at the very minimum, you can get double damage down.
Yeah, you would be able to. You'd have to double up with a Sludge Bomb and an Ivy Cudgel, because that Incineroar did commit his Terra Flying here. I don't know if that's going to be enough to KO the Incineroar if that is the case, because you'd have the Sword of Ruin helping the Ivy Cudgel at least, so it'd be pretty close if it is actually able to pick up the KO, if that is what Giovanni went for.
But Wolf right now is going to keep this Chien-Pao on the field. Doesn't want to risk this when you know that the Follow Me from the Ogre Pawn is still around. Also with the Chien-Pao, with the moves that it has, Icicle Crash can miss. But this was a great call here from Wolf to get this prediction right and make sure that this Incineroar could actually go ahead and do some damage. That Follow Me perfect to be able to keep this Landorus from picking that super effective attack.
Yeah, so a much better turn for Wolf coming out on this turn. No damage taken apart from your little bit of Flare Blitz recoil. And you put that Ogre-Pon into range of the Icicle Crash that the Chien-Pao can go for. So now you've got to be wary of the fact that you can get KO'd on the Ogre-Pon with the Icicle Crash, and then the Incineroar, now it's gone for its Terra Flying. Yes, Sludge Bomb would do some reasonable damage, but it wouldn't KO at all. And that means you're opening yourself up to a double KO hit. The Icicle Crash KO the Ogre-Pon, take the Sludge Bomb, or maybe the Chien-Pao, but then Flare Blitz would then KO the Landorus. But actually, that's not the option that Wolf is going for here. The Chien-Pao is not going on the offensive, it's switching into the Flutter Mane instead.
Yeah, I think it's just, you know that the Chien-Pao is going to be important later on in the game. Maybe it's not so bad to try to sacrifice the Flutter Mane or see if you can actually get away with switching it back in. But it is going to have to take the Earth Power. So ends up being a sacrifice as Wolf is able to bring back in this Chien-Pao. And I think part of it too is that you're reducing the Sword of Ruin.
Oh,
but actually I think he needed it.
He definitely needed
the Sword of Ruin to be able to pick up the KO onto the Landorus, so he just barely misses it.
Wow, I was not expecting that. That must be quite a bulky Landorus to be able to survive that attack. That's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I was thinking that like the Sword of Ruin, you take it away so that your Incineroar may be a bit safer from the Ogre-Pon's Ivy Cudgel, right?
Yeah.
But then that backfires.
Yeah, it did, and now, well, you've got the same situation. You can go for Follow Me. Yes, you'd lose the Ogre-Pon to an Icicle Crash, but then you can still follow up with the Earth Power into the Chien-Pao. So now we do have the Mind Game once again, because Spiky Shield is an option on the Ogre-Pon, and Protect is available on the Chien-Pao once again. So do you protect the Chien-Pao as you then Flare Blitz KO the Ogre-Pon to take away the Follow Me, or do you go on the offensive expecting Giovanni to expect the Protect of the Chien-Pao and instead would double up with a Sludge Bomb and an Ivy Cudgel into the Incineroar? So I think those would be the two options here, and we'll have to see who's going to get the better end of the prediction. It's going to be follow me here, no protect.
I'm surprised
Wow, so the follow me is going to
again,
redirect away this first attack, which is going to be the Icicle Crash. Chien-Pao has his glasses on,
nice.
but it barely misses the KO. So the Chien-Pao, it gets one hit knocked out by the Earth Power in response from Geo's Landorus, and I think you're going to be feeling that you missed that KO. Now Incineroar's Flare Blitz is not going to get a double knockout here for Wolf. It only can take the Ogerpon down with it, and so Wolf has to trust in his most reliable first partner Pokemon against two Pokemon here for Geo.
It's actually Wolf's Incineroar that he's going to be able to take this, try and take this game with, but in the face of the Landorus, still it's immune to the Earth Powers. Doesn't matter. It's going to be Sludge Bomb here.
Yeah,
it's going to be
on
upon incredible threat, and I dropped to the he has the
adjustment made into this next game, thinking about a difference in Giovanni Siski has not skipped a beat after getting top 16 at LAIC just a couple of months ago, when he said he was going to be taking it easy this season. He's been picking and choosing his battles wonderfully. And as we get into this game number 2 of this set, Giovanni is going to be leading with a 1-0 game advantage.
Yeah, and so we've got pretty similar leads coming out here. The Fluttermane's either side. Are we going to see some support and then immediately drop to the Shadow Ball once again? Because in the first game, it was a Spiky Shield on the Icy Wind, which did work out initially for Wolf in that first. Could have seen what the way in Sans to be able to pick up the Landorus.
Same thing.
It's the right Pokemon to Terra in this matchup, especially given what Wolf ended up bringing in the back. Even if it is going to be that Incineroar later to be able to deliver a Flare Blitz. But
I mean, the exact same
amount we saw for the first ball. The decision out as
because it did work opting active games this Storm as we saw before, be able to stop that. Thinking about us gain any.
Whoa.
Exact same turn.
What's that? I just built a budgeting app in base 44. Guys.
Off, but that's incredibly risky if the Landorus does target the Fluttermane or just goes for Sandstorm Storm to avoid any potential follow me that could still come out. It's exactly the same scenario as we had before, but this time we've got the extra level of mind game of, well, this is what I did in the previous game. Am I going to do the same thing, or am I going to go for the mix-up?
Yeah, sometimes it is conditioning. If you expect to see the same turn play out, maybe that's where you can try to find the competitive edge by doing something unexpected. But as we enter into this turn, you can just see how much thought is going into making sure you are making the right choice. And it does look like it's going to pay off for Wolf, at least for the Ogerpon. But unfortunately, the Fluttermane is still going to be able to get a chance to move. But with this trade of blows, Wolf has to lose his Ogerpon in the process to allow this Fluttermane to actually get any damage down. So with a big Shadow Ball that it's going to be locked into, it targets down the Ogerpon on Geo's side, and in fact is able to get a knockout. A critical hit? We're going to have to go to the calculations for that one, but it is going to be a trade of Ogerpons across the board.
I would suspect that did end up being necessary to pick up the K on the Ogerpon. Given it was able to survive the Icicle Crash and the Chien-Pao, that implies it is incredibly bulky. And Shadow Ball is definitely not as strong as Moonblast can be. We're probably used to the Moonblast count, and that should have picked up the knockout on the Ogerpon. But Shadow Ball, I think, would have probably fallen short, but there was the critical hit to be able to get that KO. At least you've got the Urshifu on the field, and both Pokemon are still outspeeding the Fluttermane. But with the Incineroar helping support, you can go for a Fake Out into either Pokemon here. But I guess, well, you can't really go for a Fake Out, given that if you Fake Out one of them, the other one will respond with the KO into the Fluttermane because it's got that speed drop. And that means it has to switch out to be able to mitigate that.
Well, I do like the adjustment that we see here from Wolf in the back. When you think about the fact that this Urshifu, in one way it can get a speed advantage is by going for priority moves like the Sucker Punch. A way that you can negate that is with an Armor Tail from a Farigiraf, but that is not going to hit the first, and that's going to be Wolf done.
Well, it definitely will. Two things done there. It stalls out the potential of the Fake Out from the Incineroar, and it burns the Terrestrialization, or at least you get to see it.
On that
it's just a double protect, so that's just in the Fake. But third thing, it doesn't allow the switch in for whatever was waiting in the back. We did see the sneak peek of the Farigiraf, because what I think Wolf was expecting there is that Fluttermane will be KO'd by one of the Pokemon, and then Incineroar's going to take some damage, get a parting shot out, reset Fake Out, and then be able to go for Fake Out into Urshifu, and Trick Room, and Farigiraf will not be stopped by getting that Trick Room. But now that didn't happen. The double protect didn't allow that switch into the Farigiraf. Trick Room is still not an option. That Flutter Mane is completely exposed now because it's still got the Icy Wind from that first turn, and now you can knock that one out and then get the extra damage into the Incineroar once again. We might still just be seeing the parting shot and try and get that same position as Wolf was going for, but now you definitely will be losing your Flutter Mane if it does stay in.
Yeah, you probably won't see the Pokemon on Geo's side attempt to go for a double protect. Geo knows that he does have that speed advantage, and so the Flutter Mane is going to lose that last remaining bit of HP and bring Wolf down to his final 2 Pokemon in this game. These 2 Pokemon need to be the way that Wolf keeps his tournament dreams alive as the Wicked Blow lands its mark into the Incineroar. Now, we do get the pivot. The parting shot is going to drop the special attack of this Landorus and provide Incineroar the ability to switch out. That's going to reveal Wolf's final Pokemon, and with the other knockout on the side, you get to refresh the Intimidate, drop the attack stat of this Urshifu again on the close combats, and then you also have the Fake Out option available.
Yeah, and if you go for Fake Out into the Urshifu, you would be breaking the Focus Sash.
What's up,
I don't know if then a Hyper Voice would be able to follow up with a KO. It's definitely the strategy that Wolf is going for here is go for that Trick Room, supported by that Fake Out. I guess the only mind game here is do you protect the Urshifu and just to preserve Focus Sash and get some extra damage to the Landorus? Well, if that's the case, the correct play is Fake Out the Landorus expecting
this game's pretty nutty.
Surely you want to preserve your Focus Sash, right? But then, the Landorus should never protect it. The Landorus should go on the offensive, and it's just down to Giovanni. Is Wolf going to try and call, well, it's an obvious protect to preserve the Sash, I'll Fake Out the Landorus to stop damage, or is the Urshifu actually going to be able to go on the offensive? Because if that is the case, it might be able to knock out this Farigiraf because it can't terror anymore.
All eyes on this Urshifu and whether or not Geo does decide to protect it, but he doesn't. And so that's going to be the Urshifu losing its Focus Sash. And the Sludge Bomb, not enough to actually pick up the KO on the Incineroar. That parting shot really coming in clutch to drop that special attack. Now Farigiraf gets away with this Trick Room for free.
This is huge here. Okay,
yeah,
so he goes in. He's going
now
into.
You've got to contend with the Sucker Punch.
He's doing Flare Blitz into the Landorus,
that's exactly what's Farigiraf.
In the first game, the Flare Blitz hit for like 95% damage, so it didn't kill.
So, yeah, we've seen in the previous game, the Flare Blitz did not KO the Landorus, but helped with a Hyper Voice that will be able to pick up.
And so, like, now, this is, like, perfect. This is, like, his one win condition is, like, hitting into Landorus, Flare Blitz, doesn't kill. So then you also get the Hyper Voice off and the Throat Spray +1, and then you kill the Urshifu.
So, is the Urshifu going to be able to take this game now for Giovanni? Because I don't think the Landorus is in any position to be able to do that now.
I don't think so, and it's not going to protect itself from this either. And this time around, it is a one-hit knockout. So the roll confirmed here, since it barely missed out on the KO in that game number 1, but got it this time around without a critical hit. That is important information. Wolf must be pretty disappointed that KO didn't come through on that game 1.
Yeah, but we actually get the Incineroar knocking itself out to recoil here, and the Farigiraf is not going to get its Throat Spray on this turn because the Hyper Voice went into a Protect instead.
The first
game, the game before this, he did the exact same move, but this needs to knock out the Urshifu. Otherwise, the Wicked Blow should be strong enough with that critical hit behind it to be able to take it. Is this going to be able to pick up the knockout? And no, it's not.
Clearly not. Wolf needed that special attack boost from the Throat Spray to be able to maybe get that damage over the edge of the Wicked Blow in response from this Urshifu. It's a one-hit knockout, and Geo takes the set 2-0, knocking Wolf out of the Europe International Championship top cut.
Taking down his 2 signature Pokemon to be able to do it as well. Taking down Wolf's Incineroar and his signature for Farigiraf.
That's just, yeah. The amount of RNG in this game, I swear, it's crazy. Okay. Because every move like has like a 10% like range to do a little bit more than you think or a little bit less, and it's like all just like RNG. Okay, I'm looking for more games here, but I guess we can just kind of go into... We're just going to the finals for now, I guess. We're just going to the finals.
Masters finals, here it is. Vladimir and Urshifu out front and center.
Okay. Okay, I don't know their full team.
For Paul Chua, Zachary Weed is leading with that Ogerpon and the Urshifu.
So the Urshifu's coming out here, they're going to be a little bit threatened from the opposite side of the field apiece because the Ogerpon does have the Wood Hammer from Zachary's side. Will outspeed as well that Urshifu. But the one thing that Paul does have in their back pocket is that Icy Wind support. You can slow that Ogerpon down this next turn and then double up into it. Maybe even commit a Terrestrialization on your own Urshifu, power up those Surging Strikes and make sure you can remove that target as soon as possible.
Yeah, the Icy Wind would be a nice way to break that focus sash on Zachary's Urshifu as well and leave it a little bit more vulnerable. But it looks like Urshifu's not stopping here in finals. It's going to get all beautiful and bejeweled up there on the main stage, going into its Terra Stellar form. This is going to give an extra pack to the punch behind Surging Strikes and Close Combat. Ogerpon doing its best supportive role, going for the follow me and drawing in all the potential single type attacks to keep Urshifu nice and safe. The Moonblast comes through, chips away at the Ogerpon. Urshifu breathes a sigh of relief that he didn't have to take that, and now it is free to unleash this boosted Surging Strikes. 1, 2, 3 critical hits are guaranteed to connect down into this Flood Domain, and with a third one, it looks like Zachary Weed is going to be able to take an early knockout in game 1.
Yeah, really great Terrestrialization here from Zachary straight out the bat, and with that Surging Strike, the support from that Follow Me Ogerpon into that Flood Domain, taking a key part of Paul's team down.
I mean, Ogerpon on Zachary's side doesn't want to take these Surging Strikes either, but it has got a lot of endurance to withstand all 3 of these attacks and just hang on.
Wow, that's a huge survival there because it allows its Ogerpon to sit for another turn, utilize that Follow Me, and further protect that Urshifu that Zachary still got that Focus Sash intact, which is very beneficial, especially when you've got a Rillaboom coming onto the field. Now the terrain is set. There is the option for Zachary to say, well, maybe I get my Indeedee on the field now and overwrite that terrain, keep control and disrupt what you're trying to do as well. Take away the option of that Grassy Glide that is a threat as well as that Fake Out.
And we also saw Zachary's Urshifu move first in that previous turn. That is something that you have to be cognizant of, whether that's the way it's been trained or whether we're going to see maybe an alternate version of that in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think here we've still got Paul with the Terrestrialization available. The Urshifu, Zachary's side, I'm going to keep that safe and sound, and I'm going to switch up the board position and overwrite that terrain with that Indeedee.
This is what Indeedee loves to do, just get disruptive in the face of this Rillaboom. Now you can no longer have that priority, so Fake Out is off the board. Rillaboom may be sensing that was coming, so it gets off the field to bring its grassy terrain a little bit later on. Paul can use the balance core, however, to bring in this Ogerpon. It can now be in a position where it can provide some support in the next couple of turns, but first of all, Ivy Cudgel will come down onto the Urshifu on Paul's side. The Focus Sash is broken, but it can unleash these Surging Strikes. Finds his mark onto the Indeedee, though.
Yeah, but this is going to hurt because this Rocky Helmet is going to have that residual damage each and every hit, making this Urshifu Sash broke, as well as taking unnecessary damage that Paul can't afford to take.
I think critically as well, it means that Indeedee and Ogerpon both stay in the game at the end of this turn. Zachary has not lost a Pokemon.
No, he's doing really well to manage the board, and especially with that Indeedee switch in now. Paul being very reactive, saying, okay, well, if the Indeedee comes in, I'm switching my Rillaboom out so I can bring it in this turn, overwrite that Psychic Terrain, so to try and keep it. But the one thing that you need to really pay attention to is that Ogerpon on Zachary's side. You need to remove that as soon as possible. You do have the ability to attack into it, but you need to be aware, if you're doing it with the Urshifu, that it can hit you and do big damage in return.
You have to start theorizing what the final Pokemon is for Zachary as well. With the Indeedee in play, you might suspect it's the Iron Crown, and that would leave the Ogerpon a little bit safer to not have to worry about a potential Intimidate from Landorus. If it does want to Terrestrialize as well, it's going to be able to get a +1 attack boost, and then it's going to be very intimidating.
Yeah, and there goes the Indeedee. He wants to preserve that in case that Rillaboom comes out, and Urshifu entering the field here. Just seeing a Detector on the Urshifu on Paul's side, just to get around this turn C and scout out what is going on.
Well, the Ivy Cudgel is unleashed from Paul's side, and it is going to be able to get a KO on the opposing Ogerpon, and even the score, 3 Pokemon apiece for these trainers. Zachary able to bring in nice and safely the Urshifu, though, with its Focus Sash still intact.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. I think with real benefit here, especially if we have that unrevealed last Pokemon as the Iron Crown, you've got a really nice supporting option next to it that can allow some sort of alleviation on an offensive side. But you've got the Indeedee as well. That can also come in, support that Urshifu really well. It is going to be able to go for a Follow Me here and pull in any sort of threats, especially from that Ogerpon that does threaten that Urshifu right now. The problem is you could see a Rillaboom switch in for the Urshifu on Paul's side and enable that grassy glide on the Ogerpon, and that could do some damage to the Urshifu, although it still has that sash intact.
Yeah, the Urshifu could maybe see into that, go for the protect, but then if the Rillaboom does come back onto the field, even if you don't get the grassy glide on the Ogerpon, it means that you unlock grassy glide and fake out on the Rillaboom in the next turn, but no switch is coming through. Instead, the Ogerpon just going straight away for the Ivy Cudgel, utilizing its natural speed advantage to be able to get the edge and remove the potential psychic terrain from coming back later in this game. Close Combat is going to utilize its Terra Stella boost now to go down into the opposing Ogerpon and get a one-hit KO.
It's the beauty about that Stellar Terrestrialization. You get boosts not on one move, but you get them on multiple moves, and taking full advantage of it there into a big threat of that Ogerpon, removing it from the field.
And even though the close combat is dealt back in, that focus sash that Zachary has so carefully preserved is now being utilized. It's going to keep Urshifu in the game, and the defenses are even more weakened on Paul's Urshifu in play.
Yeah, now that Urshifu on Paul's end in a real tough situation, it can't switch out to undo those close combat drops. It is pretty low health as well, and here's that last Pokemon. It is the Iron Crown. The one advantage that Paul has had is preserving that Rillaboom until the end, getting rid of that Psychic Terrain. So the Expanding Force not going to be a double target attack. It's still going to be strong as you see that booster energy boosting the special attack on that Iron Crown.
Yeah, Iron Crown not in the environment that it likes to be in. It wants to be able to get that additional damage from the Expanding Force, and Rillaboom now in play where it can go for that fake out.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's exactly what we're going to see. Slow that threat down this turn and hopefully you can get an Aqua Jet into the opposing Urshifu, which you do, and pick up a big key knockout.
Really like this play. You know the Unseen Fist is going to be able to go through a potential detect on the opposing Urshifu anyway, so you didn't want to fake out that slot, guarantee the KO, and just stop the Iron Crown from moving at all in this turn.
Yeah, and this is beautifully played from Paul, because if you look at that Rillaboom, they have one attack that's so threatening to that Iron Crown, and that is high horsepower. You combine that with your Terrestrialization on your Urshifu, and you're looking at maybe taking a quick lead in this set.
Yeah, the Terrestrialization has been utilized on Zachary's side, so Iron Crown is going to have to stay as a Steel and Psychic type, but not for Paul Chewer. This Urshifu is going to be able to drop its Fighting type weakness that would be to that Expanding Force, and is just going to embody being a full-on Water Force.
Yeah, and it does naturally outspeed the Iron Crown. It's going to be able to get all three attacks off. Will the Iron Crown be able to take them? You would imagine so, but you're going to have to contend with a Rillaboom here, with an Assault Vest. It's going to be able to follow up with a high horsepower. Iron Crown looking like it's on its last legs, and maybe Paul edging out this first game.
Even though Iron Crown is able to get the Expanding Force and get the KO, if this high horsepower is going to be able to come down and connect onto the Iron Crown, it is going to be able to get the knockout and move Paul one step closer to redeeming his title. There's the high horsepower. Paul Chewer goes one game up in this final.
What a way to start for Paul. He'll be pleased with that. I think he executed the game plan perfectly, was very patient at the right time.
That is so much.
Into the
and being out with 8 top
can look give bypass.
Well, the adaptation
puts him in, and they're so threatening with the Tailwind and then the Bleak Wind Storm threat as well.
Well, the adaptations are coming out here in game 2. Zachary just going full on with the Iron Crown and Indeedee combination. This is going to be forcing Paul to react. So far in the leads, however, it's a Raging Bolt and an Incineroar. A total change of pace for game 2.
Yeah, this is a change up, and you've got that offensive threat of Iron Crown. It's not really threatening the Incineroar too much right now, but it's not threatened either, because that booster energy means knockoff not going to be too much damage, and the fake out not something that you can slow down with. You can go for a potting shot into that, slow it down if Calm Mind is suspected, and you have the ability now to switch out your Raging Bolt, get the Rillaboom on the field, and make sure you keep control of those terrains.
I like this switch coming through from Zachary, thinking maybe that Rillaboom could be coming in, so you need the Indeedee in the back to overwrite that, and letting the Landorus join the fray here in the Masters final. It's going to be able to get the Intimidate down critically onto the opposing Incineroar as Raging Bolt gets out of there. Lee, do you think we're going to see a Rillaboom?
We're definitely seeing a Rillaboom. I think here it is. It's going to overwrite the terrain, lay the carpet, and set that grassy terrain here, making the fake out this next turn active. It can go into the Landorus. We are seeing the fake out into the Iron Crown, saying, I'm not giving you an inch here. I want to stop any potential Calm Mind, slow things down, and now you've got an active fake out, but you've got to be really wary that the Indeedee could just switch back in for the Landorus. It's done its job. It's dropped an Intimidate onto these two physical attackers, which is great, but it could just switch out, get that Psychic Terrain active again, and then the Expanding Force onto the Rillaboom in particular is quite a threat.
Well, Rillaboom leaves the field as quickly as it has joined. Not going to go for a fake out and be tricked into a potential Psychic Terrain return. Raging Bolt is like back in action as Landorus does indeed make that adaptation. It is Choice Banded, so that's going to be an extra damaging U-turn. And as you said, Lee can now give Zachary the opportunity to bring the Psychic Terrain back into the field. But once again, Paul has been so masterful keeping that Rillaboom in the back, and Zachary not playing that game brings in the Urshifu as Iron Crown utilizes this window of opportunity to set up a Calm Mind. That is going to boost up his special attack and special defense.
Yeah, that's a huge momentum swing there for Zachary. It helps him in a lot of ways get a bit more power onto the field, but Paul seeing that, keeping it in check with that parting shot, going to just remove that special attack boost that we've just seen. Bear in mind, though, keep in mind that it's still got that special defense boost, so it's going to be able to take attacks from things like that Raging Bolt that's active on the field now. A little bit better than it would be normally.
Yes, definitely when you see those special attackers in play, you need to keep those calculations in mind, as well as the grassy terrain on the field. With the
this is such a beautifully played match. Whenever I think someone is ahead, the other person does something that makes it right back to even again. But now I think it's Paul that's up.
Leftovers on that rage.
It's Paul that's up because he has the fucking Raging Bolts out that, I mean, the Thunderclap just like, it isn't KO because it was a focus sash on Urshifu, but like it's big damage on Urshifu. And then now Ogerpon is starting major damage, physical damage on Iron
Bolt can put it in a position where it's just going to have so much longevity on the field.
Yeah, and I think if you're Paul now, do you want to go for a Calm Mind of your own with your Raging Bolt? It could kind of keep pace with that Iron Crown, especially on the special defensive side of things. So if that Psychic Terrain does make an appearance again, then you can at least take those attacks a little bit better. But the Ogerpon in a great position. It is going to threaten the Iron Crown now in that Psychic and Steel form. The Steel type doesn't like fire types, but it does have Terastallization in its back pocket. Goes for that though, it becomes susceptible to the Dragon type attacks, and we're just seeing a protect.
Yeah, defensive play on Zachary's side, protecting up that Iron Crown as the Grassy Glide just goes straight down into that Urshifu. Thunderclap trying to follow up, but it's going to fail. Now, if you are the Urshifu, you can go for this Taunt, not going on the offensive, but shutting down a potential Calm Mind. That is now no longer an option for that Raging Bolt.
Yeah, it's a big risk going for the Grassy Glide there, especially if you see the Indeedee switch in. It would have been blocked from being a priority attack. It would have hit anyway, but a big amount of damage to get onto that Urshifu and put it in an awkward spot now. And now the Iron Crown becomes a big target because you can kind of pin it with a Terastallized Ivy Cudgel and cover it with a Dragon Pulse. And almost either option that you go for with that Iron Crown, it's going to take big damage. But can you get that Indeedee position to take advantage of the expanding force? Is that going to be enough to deal with these two threats on Paul's side?
And I think the Ogerpon as well, really primed to apply pressure to that Iron Crown. It does not want to take one of these Ivy Cudgels, particularly if the Ogerpon wants to utilize this Terastallization and give itself the attack boost.
Yeah, but you do have the Landorus. That is one thing that can come in and reduce the attack power on the Ogerpon. Are we going to see it? Doesn't look like it. It is the Indeedee. It's back for more with that Psychic Surge ability activating and Psychic Terrain in play.
Yeah, it's hoping to rejoin the battle and not be met with a Rillaboom, and it looks like there's no switches on Paul Chua's side. Instead, the Terastallization is going to take to the stage. The Ogerpon going to unleash behind the Hearthflame Mask and become a fully fledged fire type. The Ivy Cudgel, in using its embody aspect, is going to be even more forbidding into that Iron Crown.
But in response, the Terastallization, and it looks like it will be the Iron Crown. Dragon Terror type now will now have a resistance to those big, powerful fire type attacks from the Ogerpon. But if Paul has doubled into it with the Dragon Pulse, it is susceptible to that attack.
Here comes the Ivy Cudgel in case the Terastallization wasn't here, but this move alone has forced the precious Terastallization on Zachary's side. And even though it's not very effective, that does over 50%. Expanding Force will connect on both Pokemon on Paul's side, but it does not
Dragon Pulse!
Dragon Pulse coverage goes
and it's enough!
Round. It is down! Zachary loses the critical Pokemon he's had by his side throughout this tournament.
The pincer movement there from Paul Chua executed perfectly, taking down a huge Pokemon, a huge piece of Zachary's team, and now got all to play for here. The Ogerpon in a really strong position now to keep on putting pressure on with those Ivy Cudgels and even the Grassy Glide, because you've got the Rillaboom active in the back. You can switch it out at any point you want and take advantage of that priority. Now you can override the Psychic Terrain.
The one thing I will say, Indeedee, not normally a Pokemon.
It looks really bad for Zach here with losing that Iron Crown, but I mean, Landers is still a really big threat on both of these people, especially with
One we know for offensive pressure, but it is rocking that Dazzling Gleam. Considering the HP the Raging Bolt has already taken, the fact that it cannot go for Terrestrialization, that is something that can potentially try and get a knockout, while Landorus tries to clean up the other Pokemon.
That is very true. I think that Paul having the numbers now, and you can see that they do have that Incineroar, is going to be very useful to slow down this Landorus now. We know it has that choice by an item. It is going to hit extremely hard if left unchecked. You also have the Rillaboom to bring in at any point as well, so if you suspect maybe an Earthquake, that feels like the really obvious option here, although the Indeedee doesn't want to take the damage as well. You've got the Rillaboom to mitigate the damage from that, so putting off Zachary going for that spread damage, at least for now.
And let's not forget, the Taunt shuts down the Protect on that Raging Bolt as well, so it would have been vulnerable to a ground-type attack coming through from the Landorus. So Paul wisely making the adaptation to bring that intimidating Incineroar back in. This is going to lower the pressure of both these physical attackers that Zachary has got on, but do not forget, Landorus is still running the Choice Band. It still has potential to do damage, but Ivy Cudgel, the fastest thing, comes through, connects onto that Urshifu and gets a knockout. Zachary now only has the Landorus to utilize in this turn.
Yeah, it'll come down to what Zachary's locked into, because whatever move they've chosen will be the move that they're locked into for the rest of the game, thanks to that Choice Band. It is the Rock Slide, going to hit for super effective damage onto both these fire types, but because of that Intimidate, just not as powerful as you would want it to be in this situation.
I think as well, though, Landorus is pinned because you've taken the Intimidates through. You also cannot go reliably for Earthquake with partner Pokemon by your side, and particularly considering Rillaboom can come back in and set the terrain just like it's doing. Earthquake's damage is going to be neutralized.
Now we're going to see the grassy terrain set, but this is some information that Paul maybe didn't know here, because the Rillaboom looks like it is the faster of the two, setting the terrain first. That's overwritten by the Indeedee, so that falls in Zachary's favor here, where this fake out from the Rillaboom is not active. But does Rillaboom really care about the Rock Slide too much? They can hit back with a Grassy Glide, and they can go for the fake out because the Landorus isn't grounded.
Yeah, that's the only Pokemon it can target. Indeedee happy to go for this Dazzling Gleam, but it hasn't found the target.
I did not know that.
Can hit back with a Grassy Glide, and they can go for the fake out because the Landorus isn't grounded.
Yeah, that's the only Pokemon it can target. Indeedee happy to go for this Dazzling Gleam, but it hasn't found the target of that Raging Bolt that it really wanted to do. Instead, the knockoff, that's going to be dealing same type attack bonus damage into the Indeedee. The Rocky Helmet giving a little bit of recoil, but thanks to the Citrus Berry, Incineroar is going to be able to eat that all back up.
Yeah, and that Indeedee looks like it's on its last legs now. It isn't got long left, and can it support this Landorus as much as you want when Zachary is relying now to get through this Rillaboom, nearly full health, this Incineroar that can pivot in and out with that Intimidate with just that Rock Slide.
There's a reason why they're called the pivoting pals. Rillaboom and Incineroar can just keep switching out with one another. Rillaboom will eventually get that terrain back in play, and Fake Out can just keep raining down all day, stopping that Choice Band Landorus from play.
Yeah, that was so well said there, Luke, but the helping hand, a last-ditch attempt from Zach. Can you get a Rock Slide, a big damage, a knockout onto the... Oh, no, nowhere near enough. There is this flinch chance onto that Incineroar. No flinch here. The parting shot going to allow that Incineroar to get out of there. The Rillaboom going to come back on, win the terrain war once again, and have that active Fake Out, and now, more importantly, Grassy Glide's going to be stronger, Woodhammer's going to be stronger, and you're going to be in a position where you could switch the Raging Bolt out if you want, drop another Intimidate with that Incineroar. The partnering, the pivoting pals are doing so well to overwhelm Zachary in this endgame.
The Incineroar has the trophy in its sights, breaking through with that parting shot, and again, just neutralizing the pressure that Zachary can exert with 2 Pokemon remaining. Zachary does not have the luxury to switch them out and reset those drops. It's going to come down to how ferocious this Landorus wants to be.
Yeah, and we see the Fake Out locked in on the Landorus, just wants to prevent any sort of let-in back for Zachary here, as the Raging Bolt will probably target down the Indeedee to remove that. The Dazzling Gleam coming out again, the Raging Bolt hanging in there, saying, I'm not done yet. Dragon Pulse in return and taking another piece of Zachary's team down.
Such a valiant effort from this Indeedee. The Dazzling Gleam trying desperately to get the KO on the Raging Bolt, but it was not to be. The bulk was just too much, and with the Grassy recovery as well, it's just hanging on.
Yeah, it has been all along, Paul. Every single match, this Rillaboom's come in and out and been the star of the show, and it looks like it's done it once again.
Also, you have priority back on the board with Grassy Terrain in play. The Rillaboom can go for that Grassy Glide and get the edge over that speedier Landorus, just constantly whittling away at it. The Rock Slide coming through, but it looks like its energy is dwindling. Not going to be able to find its mark on that Raging Bolt. Does a minimal amount of damage to that Rillaboom.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're going for the Grassy Glides just to get around the potential, anything that could go wrong. It is that flinch that could happen, and you've seen it time and time again in previous matches in the past. Paul doesn't want to allow that to happen. Champion world and Sean once again, two-time European international champion. Incredible, incredible.
Neutralizing the pressure that Zachary can exert with 2 Pokemon remaining. Zachary does not have the luxury to switch them out and reaching the
in a position.
Chance.
Yeah, roll that boom and they fit the string. It's just not as powerful as you would want it to be in this situation.
Comes through, connects onto that
like this. That's it. It's tough.
And gets a knockout. Zachary now only has the Landorus to utilize in this turn.
Yeah, it'll come down to what Zachary's locked into. Boom to mitigate the damage. You've got the Rillaboom to mitigate the damage from that. So putting off Zachary going for that spread damage, that is very important. And take advantage of that priority. Now you can overwrite the psychic terrain.
The one thing I will say, Indeedee, not normally a Pokemon we know for offensive pressure, but it is rocking that Dazzling Gleam. Considering the HP the Raging Bolt has already taken, the fact that it cannot go for Terrestrialization, that is something that can potentially try and get a knockout while Landorus tries to clean up the other Pokemon.
That is very...
Yeah, I don't... Yeah. And that's what he should have. He should have just kept Indeedee in. Went for like 1 Dazzling Gleam, and then...
True. I think that Paul having the numbers now, and you can see that they do have that Incineroar, is going to be very useful to slow down this Landorus now. We know it has that choice by an item. It is going to hit extremely hard if left unchecked. You also have the Rillaboom to bring in at any point as well, so if you suspect maybe an Earthquake that feels like the really obvious option here, although the Indeedee doesn't want to take the damage as well, you've got the Rillaboom to mitigate the damage from that, so putting off Zachary going for that spread damage, at least for now.
And let's not forget, the Taunt shuts down the Protect on that Raging Bolt as well, so it would have been vulnerable to a ground type attack coming through from the Landorus. So Paul wisely making the adaptation to bring that intimidating Incineroar back in. This is going to lower the pressure of both these physical attackers that Zachary has got on. But do not forget, Landorus is still running the choice band. It still has potential to do damage. But Ivy Cudgel, the fastest thing, comes through, connects onto that Urshifu and gets a knockout. Zachary now only has the Landorus to utilize in this turn.
Yeah, it'll come down to what Zachary's locked into, because whatever move they've chosen will be the move that they're locked into for the rest of the game, thanks to that choice band. It is the Rock Slide, going to hit for super effective damage onto both these fire types, but because of that Intimidate, just not as powerful as you would want it to be in this situation.
I think as well, though, Landorus is pinned because you've taken the Intimidates through. You also cannot go reliably for Earthquake with partner Pokemon by your side, and particularly considering Rillaboom can come back in and set the terrain just like it's doing. Earthquake's damage is going to be neutralized.
Now we're going to see the grassy terrain set, but this is some information that Paul maybe didn't know here, because the Rillaboom looks like it is the faster of the two, setting the terrain first. That's overwritten by the Indeedee, so that falls in Zachary's favor here.
If we go back to this and look at some more games. I want to look at a game with...
Stall your opponent out with those fake outs, allowing time to set
the exact
that Calm Mind up. But don't ignore the Landorus either, Lou, that has the ability to set the substitute up.
Exactly, and once that substitute goes up, we saw yesterday how difficult it is to break through that life from that has super fast. It's got that rocky helmet.
Like, it's like nothing on this team is original. Nothing on this team is original. Like, yeah, my
go for those 3 in some
negligible, bit of an offset.
Okay, this one looks okay. We're watching it for Francisco. We're watching this for Francisco. I do hate Thunders, but it is a really good mix-up, and it is good util here. We love a Dragonite. Gouging Fire in Tinglu.
Think for their opponent. Think about Francesco's team, though. We've got that Chen Pao, the Urshifu Rapid Strike, the Thunderous, Incarnate Form that we don't regularly see. Love it. Dragonite, the Gouging Fire, and that Tinglu.
Yeah, I love to see Dragonite and Chen Pao back in action together. These Pokemon really broke out in the meta originally because you have that synergy with Sword of Ruin, lowering the defenses, making Dragonite be able to hit really hard with the extreme speed, the scale shot that it can have more guaranteed rolls on thanks to the loaded dice, as well as having Iron Head with that Steel Terrestrialization to help you around maybe some fairy type Pokemon that are running around. Fluttermane sound familiar?
Yeah, definitely one of those Pokemon that will have to be a little bit wary of that. But the setup here is the Gouging Fire, mainly going to go for that Howl, boost the attack on itself and its partner in Pokemon. Going to be very beneficial for things like Dragonite, things like that Chen Pao. So you can stack that with the Sword of Ruin and become a big, powerful offensive force. And you can't forget about the Urshifu as well. Safety Goggles there, really nice option. So Rage Powders aren't going to be effective, and it's immune to any sleep or spore moves that come into that slot. But the Thunderous, the Incarnate Form, Wild Bolt Storm, very strong spread attack and Eerie Impulse there to lower the special attack of those special threats. Namely, Raging Bolt is not going to want to take any of those throughout the match, and the taunt there, Prankster taunt, really useful on something like that Thunderous.
Yeah, I think Thunderous could be very interesting, like you say, with the disruption coming through. For me, the Gouging Fire, I want to see that get set up. I want to be able to see the heat crashes come through. Pokemon like the Chi-Pow and the Rillaboom, that's going to be a prime target to get that damage down. And having that Fairy Terrestrialization as well can give you a bit of defensive coverage. You have to watch out, obviously, for Landorus and the Dragon.
Into this Swiss round 11 here, Francesco leading out with that Thunderous and the Urshifu, and Giuseppe leading with their tried and tested Raging Bolt and that Incineroar.
Yeah, Incineroar is here to play. It can go for that fake out. Raging Bolt is going to activate its photosynthesis thanks to its item here, so it's going to get that boost up, as now you have the option. Who do you go for the fake out into?
Well, that's the thing. I think you want to protect your Raging Bolt more than anything. I think doing that, though, you go into the Thunderous, prevent any Eerie Impulse coming into your Raging Bolt. You kind of become susceptible to that Urshifu going for the Surging Strike, kind of for free into the Incineroar. You do have the option, though. You could spend your Terrestrialization if you do suspect that and really kind of capitalize in this moment and get the Calm Mind off.
But then you do here. I'm going to try and guess, though. I don't know how to play this guy's team, really, but Incineroar was definitely going for... I mean, I didn't even see what he did, but I'm going to assume it's fake out. I'm going to assume it's fake out on, like, Urshifu. I would protect on Urshifu and Eerie Impulse, the Raging Ball.
Are you in a better position turn 2, because then that Eerie Impulse becomes active again, and then you can kind of just undo that if you're Francesco. So I don't know if the Raging Bolt here wants to go for setup, maybe a fake out, and then go for the Thunderclap maybe into that Urshifu. And because of that threat there, that's why we're maybe seeing Francesco just reposition their board into a slightly more favorable position.
I like that you avoid a potential Thunderclap, like you say, and you can reset that Intimidate in case you wanted to use your close combat. The fake out going straight into the Dragonite, though, that is going to break the multi-scale, leaving it a lot more vulnerable as the Eerie Impulse comes through and connects into that Raging Bolt. Its special attack will be lowered, so this Dragon Pulse will be dealing weaker damage into the Dragonite. Oh, I mean, the multi-scale
is so much better there. Why would you... And it only lived because of the Eerie Impulse. I mean, he knew that was going to happen, I guess, but like...
With Chip, the Dragon Pulse coming through.
Okay, but the only reason why his play is better is if Dragonite
that could have been big damage if Eerie Impulse hadn't come through.
Yeah, so huge. What a turn there. And you know, we saw Giuseppe really kind of catch switches yesterday with that Dragon Pulse, effectively doing the same again there, but kind of having that cover of that Eerie Impulse saying, okay, well, you do go for it. I'm trying to mitigate this issue as best I can. Eerie Impulse -2 on that special attack. The Raging Bolt not quite hitting as hard as we used to. And the Dragonite in now, probably not in the greatest position. It does have that skill shot. It is putting a lot of pressure on to the opposing Raging Bolt. So that is something that Giuseppe is going to have to react to now, maybe giving a little bit more room to the Dragonite and the Thunderous to go after the Incineroar if you expect that Raging Bolt to either protect or switch out.
Yeah, it can protect, but it also has the potential Terrestrialization. Not going to be utilizing it this turn on that Raging Bolt, but it could turn into a Fairy type to avoid taking any Dragon type damage. I like how the Thunderous is like, I see you wanting a cheeky Calm Mind because I lowered your special attack. Well, you can't have one. And guess what? You can't have a Thunderclap either. That is going to fail depending on its target. Either Pokemon was not valid for a Thunderclap to connect. Parting Shot, however, it will be, I think, a very happy Incineroar here to be able to get that down finally. You know, poor Raging Bolt was having a difficult time there, so Incineroar able to finally connect that and get off the field.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think the Thunderous minds too much out of the 2 targets that are out on the field of getting that special attack lowered or its attack lowered, because it's primarily here to support the rest of the Pokemon on Francesco's side. You can see that taunt really valuable into the Raging Bolt now, locking it into attacking options, not that Calm Mind or that Protect. So on top of that, the Impulse comes out again into the Raging Bolt. It's going to be even weaker than it was previously, but got a nice supporting option where Giuseppe's got that active fake out again, can fake out the Thunderous or the Dragonite.
Dragonite's kind of unlocked, like
to kind of stall out the turn and maybe reposition, get into a bit of a stronger spot, because this Raging Bolt isn't really got the offensive presence that it once had.
But we're going to switch out one Dragon for another as the Gouging Fire joins the field. The boosted energy is going to increase its speed, so that is going to be a very nimble Gouging Fire. It has to take a little bit of a fake out, but that's okay because now Thunderous is free to move with another Eerie Impulse. Obviously, the Covert Cloak, meaning that there's no point going for the fake out into that Thunderous, so it's free to just go for all of these attacks. Unfortunately for the Gouging Fire, though, once again, that Raging Bolt finds its mark with the Dragon Pulse, but these Eerie Impulses paying off.
Yeah, and so many Dragon types on Francesco's side of the field, it's making it almost easy for Giuseppe just to target that slot, even though you're kind of susceptible to those Eerie Impulse special attack drops, you're still getting respectable damage onto the field. You can see even the Dragonite coming in and taking over 2/3 of its health loss there, so really putting it a bit behind where Francesco probably wants it to be. Same with the Gouging Fire, it's not as healthy as it once was when it came in, so it does have to be a little bit careful. Another Dragon Pulse here will put it really close to in range of getting knocked out, and you know, I think Giuseppe not panicking in this situation, staying tried, true and tested. Nothing on his side of the field are immediately threatened to be knocked out, so he's not really having to react so much in the situation. Has a nice switch in to potentially...
Francesco, I don't know, man. This guy's been kind of goofing. I mean, what Giuseppe's like anticipating is like a protect or whatever his version, his signature protect is on Gouging Fire, and what, like another Eerie Impulse.
Incineroar now to drop the attack on the Gouging Fire that's come onto the field, and the Thunder is not really that effective in this moment, so that's why I'm seeing it switch out, and also Francesco kind of readjusting their board position.
Yeah, I mean, Francesco so far hasn't taken a single point of damage off any of Giuseppe's Pokemon. Although Thunderous has been putting in a lot of work neutralizing the pressure that the Raging Bolt can do, it's still at least getting damage on the board, and that's something you have to calculate towards the end game. You said it, Lee, the Incineroar could join the party, and it's here, and it's going to be able to take this Heat Crash so much better than the Rillaboom that was there before. It's able to eat that up. Does take a little bit of recoil with the Rocky Helmet, but that's okay. The Raging Pulse is not coming in your direction, it's going towards the Urshifu instead.
Yeah, I feel like there was an opportunity there for maybe a Howl switching in the Urshifu
that would have been
there,
cool.
and then you set up the attack, get around and mitigate that Intimidate that you just dropped, but it is risky as well at the same time. If that Rillaboom stays in and you don't check it with the Heat Crash there, then the Urshifu's way more susceptible, especially in front of a Grass type and an Electric type, how that turn started.
He hit that Incineroar for like 5%.
Maybe the play didn't work out, and this is all down to Giuseppe tried and tested.
He actually took more damage than the Incineroar did.
Kind of folding or bending under these really kind of awkward positions that Francesco's putting them into.
I think that's a good point, though. The Urshifu needed to get into a safer environment. Yes, you still have the pressure of something like the Thunderclap coming through, but at -2, depending on how this Urshifu has been trained, it might be able to navigate around that.
Yeah, now the Urshifu putting a lot of pressure onto this Incineroar, the Raging Bolt, -4 special attack wants to get out of there. Giuseppe wants to reset those drops, so when it comes back onto the field, it's a lot stronger, and you bring in a really strong partnering Pokemon in the Rillaboom here. Take advantage of that active fake out.
Where's the protect there?
Options on Francesco's side.
Oh, here come those surging strikes. We did say Francesco needs to get damage on the board, and it looks like he's going to be able to get a KO as well. Needs to get one more of these surging strikes to land. The Rocky Helmet damage is chipping away, but I think the trade-off is worth it. You've got rid of one of these dynamic duos. Rillaboom's still in the game, but Incineroar is down and out.
Yeah, it's a really good turn for Francesco to take away one of the options, the switching options for Giuseppe. Now they're only limited to 3 Pokemon rather than the 4, so those options become a little bit easier to kind of guess if they're moving in and out off the field and taking advantage of the fake out from that Rillaboom in particular. The one thing that Giuseppe's got the advantage of is now the Thunderous isn't on the field for Francesco and come in, reset those drops that they took from the Eerie Impulse. It is now putting a lot of pressure onto both the Urshifu with a Thunderclap and also a Dragon Pulse into either target. Super effective into the Gouging Fire, so you have to be a little bit careful there. And have you got the switches in the back? We know all the Pokemon that Francesco has available to them. The Grassy Glide, immediate threat onto that Urshifu as well. So Francesco not in the best of spots, even though they've just taken a Pokemon from Giuseppe. I think the momentum swing is
what Francisco needs to do here is just readjust. The Incineroar, the Urshifu has. I don't even know what Giuseppe's 4th Pokemon is. I guess Urshifu is kind of in the position that he's in. Urshifu probably is okay to go down. Maybe. Well, not necessarily go down. You can probably put a close combat. You can probably do a close combat into Raging Bolt. And honestly, but then Thunderclap, right? But He did go for a Calm Mind, so he technically could do a close combat in the Raging Bolt. It's just you don't know if he's gonna go for a Thunderclap or not.
All in Giuseppe's favor right now with this board position of the Raging Bolt and the Rillaboom.
Well, the Raging Bolt definitely was the one swinging that momentum. Once it got off the field, you had that Incineroar in that was kind of almost like candy for the Urshifu to try and grab, and that's exactly the trap that Francesco fell into, because now you've opened up the opportunity for Raging Bolt to come back in so naturally. Urshifu leaves the field, and Thundurus is like, okay, I see a Raging Bolt, I see I'm needed back in action, as Terrestrialization is going to take to the stage. So these trainers wanting to shake things up a little bit further.
That's actually pretty
the Gouging Fire will turn into a Fairy type, so this leaves it a lot less vulnerable to that Raging Bolt. Can no longer be hit by those super effective Dragon Pulses. It will now be immune.
Yeah, it's a great terrestrialization to get around that threat of the Dragon Pulse. Vega coming into that slot, don't want to allow that the Gouging Fire to even attack this turn, and there it is. There's a key moment Giuseppe's waited for, that Calm Mind, but quite rightly, in response to that, Francesco bringing the Thundurus back onto the field, you said, open the door, I need to come back, I've got a job to do, and this is exactly why the Thundurus is going to be here and causing a lot of disruption, because that Eerie Impulse can be fired off again, and although the Calm Mind has boosted that special attack one stage, the Eerie Impulse will be able to undo that and take it down to -1. That Fairy Terror typing on the Gouging Fire, it's not affected by the Dragon Pulse, and you're kind of free to go for a Howl here if you want to, and you're putting a lot of pressure onto the Rillaboom as well at the same time with that Heat Crash that Giuseppe has to be a little bit more careful around, because the Heat Crash will do a lot of damage, super effective into the Rillaboom, and you can't afford to lose another one of those key pieces that you have to have next to something like the Raging Bolt that wants to set up.
Fantastic, and I mean the Gouging Fire has a big old heart on its head for Valentine's Day as well. It got the memo for today, and it's going to be trying desperately to keep Francesco in this game. One adjustment comes through on Giuseppe's side. We're going to see the Urshifu coming in from the back as Thundurus does indeed land that Eerie Impulse once again. Like you said, it has to find a way to counteract the offensive pressure from these Calm Minds. Obviously, the special defense boost stays in play, but that's not really going to be valid into this Gouging Fire. There comes the Howl. Now, this is a nice way to start setting up. Gouging Fire is like, okay, Raging Bolt, you can no longer touch me for good damage. I need to now use this to my advantage.
Yeah, and I think that's to the detriment of the Raging Bolt now. The Urshifu comes onto the field for Giuseppe, is going to apply a little bit more pressure, but in front of an Electric-type Pokemon like Thundurus, isn't really sitting in the most comfortable of spots right now. Has to watch out for Thunder Wave as well. It's a speed control option that Francesco has access to. We didn't talk about in team preview, but if the Thunder Wave comes off onto the Urshifu, that's something that Giuseppe wants to try and avoid going forward in this match. We are in response to this situation right now, seeing the terrestrialization, and it will be into that Urshifu, trying to mitigate that weakness to electric types that are right front and center in front of it.
Okay, so
I think this is nice, like you say, it's going to give it a little bit more flexibility on the field, because it's not going to have to worry about the electric type damage.
Oh my God,
the Aqua Jet comes through to get a bit of an edge on priority as the Raging Bolt follows up with a Thunderclap, and it does get the knockout. The speed is indeed what Giuseppe needed to get the KO on that Gouging Fire.
Yeah, we talked about earlier in the match, every decision that these trainers make from start to finish is so important, and it comes in that Dragon Pulse catch earlier on in this match, doing that initial damage to the Gouging Fire is so pivotal in allowing it to get knocked out. And like you just pointed out, the paralysis effect here from the Wild Ball Storm is kicking in, and that Urshifu is now paralyzed. That's going to be beneficial for Francesco to try and catch up in this game, because they've lost a real key part of their team just now.
Well, you said that Thundurus would likely be wanting to go for the Thunder Wave to try and slow down that Urshifu, but hey, if you can get it from a secondary effect on the Wild Bolt Storm and get damage for your troubles, that's a really nice way to try and get revenge onto that Urshifu. Fantastic playthrough coming from Francesco, but Giuseppe having that priority to identify a key threat on the opposing side, really nice play, particularly if you've gone for the Terra Steel and the Urshifu, you would then be very vulnerable to a potential Heat Crash.
You would indeed, and I think the thing now is Francesco's resources that they've got are solo health. It looks like the Dragonite might, even at -1 on the Raging Bolt, is the Thunderclap going to be enough to pick up the knockout? There's that combination again of just get the chip that you need with the Aqua Jet and then follow up with the Thunderclap, and that's probably enough because of that initial Dragon Pulse damage that it got.
This Dragonite has to... Raging Bolt is just so good, man.
in this game, making
this
things very
Urshifu
difficult for
down
Francesco, because the Dragon Knight comes in here full
with,
health.
like,
You're saying
skill
this is
shot
a
or
different
something?
game completely, but
Maybe not skill
Giuseppe
shot.
laying the foundations early
Actually,
in this
he
match
doesn't
and
have
making it
anything to
difficult
attack
for
this
Francesco
with,
to get that momentum swing
It's a
right
tier
now.
of
But not
steel.
over. The Dragon Knight comes in and is putting a lot of pressure onto
skill
that
shot,
Raging Ball. If you can
the
get a skill shot off
Raging Ball.
into that Pokemon, then that is huge. Maybe you could try and protect it here. Go for a Thunder Wave into the Raging
But, like,
Ball.
it's not going to be that
well,
easy.
you
I
can't
figured
because
you
it's
would
an
swap.
electric type and it's also switching off the field.
Yeah, Raging Bolt's like, no, I'm not going to mess around with Thundurus anymore. I'm not going to let you get up to any plans. Let's bring the grassy terrain back on the field because my grounded Pokemon can benefit from that. On the opposing side, they're both flying, so cannot get that additional recovery. The Area Impulse instead will land on the Rillaboom. It doesn't mind about this. Its special attack is worthless to it. But the Scale Shot, however, is something it doesn't want to take. Dragonite really trying to utilize these loaded dice to get as many rolls on the board. It's going to be guaranteed 4, but can it get 5 to push the Rillaboom over the edge?
It looks like it's hitting 4 times here. Still doing some very nice damage, though. But that defense drop not really going to be that beneficial in front of the Urshifu. It is going to fire out a Surging Strikes, and even though it is resisted, it is good. How many Irium
game if you have Dragon Pulse, and so now Urshifu's terrestrialized.
Thunderous theme throughout this match where we've seen Thunder Wave coming out
Thunder
into the
Wave
Rillaboom, so
finally
has have a chance not to attack. Not Raging Bolt and the here.
With those baby
Difficult from Francesco.
I mean, I think you called the beginning of this both with the Irium.
Francesco, you have to do better this game.
And get off the field as soon as possible
You
to
have to
threaten
do
with
better.
any sort of knockout here. I can just sit quite comfortably, position my partner in
You're
biggest
losing to a
damage on
very NPC team.
some big
here.
adjustments needed from Francesco in this
Okay,
game.
I like this
Well,
lead.
adjustments on both sides of the field. Chiampao and Urshifu are coming out for Giuseppe, whereas on the opposing side, you still have that Thundurus hoping to catch a ratio. Chiampao and Urshifu are coming out for Giuseppe.
Chiampao weakens defense.
Whereas on the
weakens special
opposing side, you
attack.
still have that Thundurus hoping to catch a Raging Bolt. We've got Tingle.
Yeah, so here's what what's he doing wrong? Bro, this turn 1 swap on the first game. So what I said to do, not that he's listening.
Though you go
What I say to do here is protect on Urshifu because you have a Raging Bolt and you have a Cinder with Fake Out and a Raging Bolt with Thunderclap. Thunderclap basically goes first if like the other person, if the guy you're attacking is attacking you, if that makes sense. But basically, it just always goes first. So Fake Out always goes first, Thunderclap always goes first. He's gonna double that into Urshifu here, like without a doubt. So what you do is protect on the Urshifu.
Thunderous prevent any Area Impulse coming into Raging Ball.
Thunderous has Area
becomes
Impulse,
susceptible to
which
that
weakens
Urshifu going for the Surging
Raging
Strike.
Ball
Really kind of
damage.
because I don't know if the Raging Ball.
And he does have to
Urshifu
it. And I called out the Fake Out.
Fake Out, and then go for the Thunderclap maybe into that.
Well, but actually, he does something worse than Thunderclap. By the way, he does something way worse than
Urshifu,
Thunderclap.
and because of
He
that threat there, that's why we're
so
maybe seeing
he
Francesco
swaps instead of protects Urshifu.
reposition that ball.
Why he would swap Dragonite into
a slightly more favorable
Raging Ball?
I like
don't
that you
know.
avoid a potential Thunderclap, like you say,
So
and you
now
can
we have the
reset that
Fake Out,
Intimidate
which
hit.
gets rid of the multi-skill.
If you
on
wanted to use your
Dragonite.
close combat. The Fake Out going straight into the Dragonite, though, that is going to break the multi-scale, leaving it a lot more vulnerable as the Eerie Impulse comes through and connects into that Raging Bolt. Its special attack will be lowered,
Balls, but this Dragon Pulse
Dragon
is
Pulse will
just
be dealing
gonna
weaker damage into
chunk your
the
Dragonite.
Dragonite. Or
So
I mean,
he's
the
already-
multi-scale was
he's
chipped, the
already
Dragon
down
Pulse
so
coming
bad
through.
on
That could have been
turn
big
1.
damage if Eerie Impulse hadn't come
With
through.
no damage done. And so he's just in the entire game he's just climbing back. He's climbing back from that. It's tough. So okay, is this? Oh, what is going on here? I went way too far. Wait a minute. Is this game that
as
quick?
quick as possible. So
This game
touch that
cannot be
Thunder-
that quick.
But I
Okay. Oh my lord.
both
Oh my god. What
It's
happened?
on
What
both-
happened? Okay.
both sides of the field, Chiampao and Urshifu are coming out for
Who's the
Giuseppe,
Thunderous on
whereas on the
turn 1?
opposing side, you still have that Thunderous hoping to catch a Raging
Okay,
Bolt.
so here's the thing here, and then Francisco's already down bad before the
big
game
adjustments
even
needed from
starts.
Francesco England.
Just off of the leads.
Well,
Francisco's thinking he's
adjustments
gonna
on both
bring
sides
out
of the field. Chiampao and
Raging
Urshifu are
Bolt
coming out for
again.
Giuseppe, whereas on the opposing side, you still have
He
that
brings out
Thunderous hoping to catch a
Chiampao
Raging Bolt. We've got
and
Tinglu by
Urshifu.
its side.
Well, we talked
Which-
about how important leads were for
which so you see how he can hit for super effective damage on both of his people. That's not good.
For our trainers,
He can hit super effective damage. Chien-Pao can hit super effective on both Thundurus and Ting-Lu, and the Urshifu can hit super effective on Ting-Lu.
Perfect lead here for Giuseppe with that Chien-Pao adjustment here, putting pressure instantly onto the Thundurus here. There's a Dark type as well, so it's not going to have to worry about that Prankster Thunder Wave, and it puts on a lot of pressure on the opposing Ting-Lu alongside the Urshifu now. It has that sort of ruin boost that can really
It's a mind game. He just got outplayed. He got outplayed.
Cause a lot of problems for the
both
of these
this guy's team is
if they're
really
left
good.
on the field and unsupported like they are right now.
It's super
exactly.
basic.
It can leave you in a very vulnerable position. Ting-Lu as well going to be able to utilize the potential Terra Blast coming through from a Terra Poison. That's something that we need to be aware of. With a clear Amulet, meaning it's not going to have any Intimidate drops coming through from a potential Incineroar in the back.
Yeah, and a very threatened position here. We are seeing a Terastallization come out from that team.
Okay, but it's still not quite over because like you Terra typing, you can change the typing.
Well, Lou just wants to get rid of that water and that ice weakness that they had. Just put a bit more stability on the field for Francesco going forward in this turn one, and just wanted to play things out. I'll just see what you're going to do. Protect on that Urshifu.
Well, Thundurus is going for the Thunder Wave down into the non-Dark type on the field, so it won't have its priority blocked. Could potentially have tried to slow that Urshifu down right away. But Chien-Pao is going to try and remove Thundurus from the game. Gets that Icicle Crash down. That's a solid one-hit KO. Removes already such a vital threat. And if there is a Raging Bolt in the back, I'm sure it is celebrating right now.
We talked about it yesterday, Lou. The false sense of security that Giuseppe leads their opponent into. The whole game one said, I'm not really going to touch that Thundurus. It can stay there. It can do what it wants throughout the game. Switched in, switched out. It was not getting attacked this time around, though. Like, I'm going to take the opportunity when it's there. I'm going to go after it and remove it as quick as possible so it's not a threat going forward. Now taking away that paralysis chance. And now you've got the Gouging Fire coming onto the field. Yeah, it's in a not a bad position, but it still has to be wary about this Swords of Ruin boosted Surging Strikes that could come out from this Urshifu. And the Ting-Lu's still not in the most comfortable positions either.
You can heat crash in the
Chien-Pao. Isn't really paying any sort of benefit right now for Francesco.
Exactly. We've got all physicals out there on the field at the moment. Hal, however, is going to come through and say, oh, you said physical attackers? How about we boost up our attack one apiece as well? That's going to obviously happen on the Gouging Fire and the Ting-Lu. So any physical attacks that wants to come through are going to be even more formidable. The Icicle Crash lands on the Ting-Lu, does about a quarter damage as the Surging Strikes follow up. And you may have turned yourself into a poison type, but with the Sword of Ruin on the field as well. This makes it so formidable. Look at Ting-Lu so low in HP after this turn.
Yeah, that is so much damage there. And the chance of...
Oh, that's GG. Oh, no, that's GG. I want to see his reaction
so low in HP after this turn.
Yeah, that is so much damage there. And the chance of a flinch from the Icicle Crash actually pays off. And there we go. That makes it so difficult for Francesco to get any sort of momentum here. You think, okay, well, you can take this double up one time only. That amount of damage is the flinch there, just really slowing and putting a stop to any sort of plan that Francesco had. The Gouging Fire, though, still has that attack boost, so not all hope hasn't been lost for Francesco here. Does still have a chance. The Ting-Lu pretty much dead weight at the moment. If you can get an attack off with it, that's great, but is Giuseppe going to allow you to attack with it? I don't think so. Probably want to target into that slot just to cover it. But this Gouging Fire has to be careful around these Surging Strikes. They're going to hit for critical hit damage. Can you and will you be able to remove the Urshifu? The one thing that you do have is the Breaking Swipe. You can go for that double target attack. It will lower the attack on both of these attackers. So there we go. We do see it.
Yeah, Breaking Swipe also comes through, gets some good chip down onto that Chien-Pao, and is lowering that attack, making them a little less scary. But an Icicle Crash going into a Dragonite, that is always terrifying. But this time, Multiscale was intact, so it was just able to hang on, but not for long, because once again, Giuseppe using the double up, the targeting to be able to get damage and knockouts on the board. He is in such control, Lee.
Yeah, really unfortunate switch.
Hasn't got that. I don't even want to watch this no more. I don't even want to watch this no more. Okay, this seems like this
two trainers were completely in sync during this chilling battle, choosing the same Pokemon, clicking the same attacks, and understanding this team like no one else could. We had never seen an Articuno exceed expectations like this, let alone two of them.
That's going to wrap up the game for Emir.
Look how much help that hand is doing to the damage count.
Yeah, so yeah, couldn't be
video regular pheasant
as Flavio was.
Okay, I lied. Well, He did have an interesting team, but it wasn't as crazy as I thought it was. I do like this team a lot better.
Able to be undefeated on the first phase of this tournament and is still only one loss so far and is looking to guarantee his place into that top cut of EUIC, but will have to take down our former 23 world champion Shohei Kimura to be able to do it.
And Shohei has been on an international tour, came off the back of a 25 to take on another. Is going to be bringing
Earthquake, Throat Trap, Terror Blast. I like Bustle of Ruin too. Prankster, Thunderwave, and Taunt. Really good. Okay.
His own spin on this team in terms of how he's going to run it. And I'm hoping this is going to be...
Maybe Flavio does the team better.
Abilities that I really wanted to.
Yeah, I would change Dragonite to... not multi-scale. Multi-scale's good though. It's yeah. it's good. I just prefer what's the other ability? The one where you don't get flinched and you don't have your attack lowered. Like that would have helped. That would have helped my man's Francisco a lot. More than multi-scale did, because he wasted multi-scale in the first turn 1. He wasted multi-scale. I guess he would have been dead. Well, no. No, it actually didn't even matter. Like multi-scale didn't even matter in his case. But,
so is that going to be the same strategy that Flavio will end up going for here? Or is the Thunderous maybe going to be left on the bench and rely on the other support just going for Howls immediately from the Gouging Fire? Because you wouldn't really consider anything else supportive on the team. Like the Thunderous is the support Pokemon, and Gouging Fire technically counts because of the Howl.
Would be
here to try to
Flavio
that's exactly what
this is also this is standard.
This team is all about. The balanced teams are about positioning, getting into the right position. You've got the two fake-out brothers there. No, Pivot Pals, caught myself. Pivot Pals is better, but yeah, we'll be able to reposition very, very nicely. Almost got me, but no. We got the personal preferences. Like we see this team of 6 together very often, and it does come down to the personal preference. Do you have leftovers or booster energy on the Carmine Raging Bolt, or even just go for Life Orb as well and just do the massive damage? What coverage moves do you have on the Gem Pow?
And this is good.
The action. Shohei Kimura, 23 world champion, is going to be leading with the Raging Bolt next to that Incineroar, and Flavio is content to follow.
This is the Raging Bolt counter. This team is literally like engineered to not lose against Raging Bolt, and it's still losing. Like everything here, like except for Urshifu and Gouging Fire. Like these 4 people are literally to beat Raging Bolt, and it's still somehow losing.
And wasn't the Thunderous is the support Pokemon, and Gouging Fire
we'll see that.
Are going to function of that challenge more favorable. And Shohei Kimura, 23 world champion, is going to be leading with the Raging Bolt next to that Incineroar, and Flavio is content to follow in his teammates' footsteps to lead that Thunderous Incarnate in the front.
Yeah, I think this might have actually been the leads for both trainers in the previous round when we had this matchup. So,
oh, bro, his shit's in
This might have actually been the leads for both trainers in the previous round when we had this matchup. So, both sticking to what they
is in the previous round.
That Thunderous Incarnate in the front.
Yeah, I think this might have actually been the leads for...
Hold on. Why they have the game in French? What does this say in English? Oh.
Both trainers in the previous round when we had this match.
Okay. Oh, attack goes special. Okay, never mind. We're good. Attack goes special.
Okay, so both sticking to what they... Well, I assume that you've got some kind of game plan against balance, and therefore we're going to lean with the Thunderous and the Urshifu here. You can go for the Eerie Impulses pretty safely into that Raging Bolt to be able to put a stop to the damage, but we know how much damage the booster energy allows the Raging Bolt to do, so even at -2, it would be doing some very impressive damage. Yes, you can go for the Thunderclap into the Urshifu on this turn to try and do some really good damage, but if the Eerie Impulse would out-prioritize that, and then the Thunderclap would not be able to pick up the knockout on the Urshifu. That might be why we got the Incineroar here with the Raging Bolt to provide that fake-out pressure, be able to fake out the Urshifu, obviously not the Covert Cloak on the Thunderous.
Okay. Is this... They haven't moved yet, right?
But, yeah.
Yeah, they haven't moved yet. Okay. Okay, let me actually look at what's going on here.
Even at -2, it would be...
Here. So he brought in...
Got some kind of game plan against balance, and therefore we're going to lean with the Thunderous and the Urshifu
Which is actually... good? I mean... okay. Okay, this is what Francesco. This is literally Francesco.
Both of the Eerie Impulse is pretty safe.
But does he play it right?
That Raging Bolt to be able to put a stop.
I don't know what moves these are.
To the damage, but we know how much damage the booster energy allows the Raging Bolt to do. So
I'm hoping he used Eerie Impulse into
even
Thunders.
At -2, it would be doing some very impressive damage. Yes, you can go for the Thunderclap into the Urshifu on this turn to try and do some really good damage, but if the Eerie Impulse would out-prioritize that, and then the Thunderclap would not be able to pick up the knockout on the Urshifu, that might be why we got the Incineroar here with the Raging Bolt to provide that fake-out pressure, be able to fake out the Urshifu, obviously not the Covert Cloak on the Thunderous, but yeah, like we're going to be seeing that straight up, the fake-out, stop that Urshifu.
And we will see the Thunderous get what it wants. It's going to be in front of the Raging Bolt. I think this is where we saw Francesco have a little bit less utility with the Thunderous. Is the fact that it didn't get a chance to Eerie Impulse.
Okay.
Drop with the Raging Bolt, doesn't get a chance to taunt it, to shut off something like that Calm Mind. But I think this is a position that Flavio is okay with. You got a -2 drop on this Raging
so
Bolt.
What do you do here? I think you just do another one. You either do another Eerie Impulse or you taunt.
That Thunderous actually took the Dragon Pulse.
Very, very comfortable there, and you can just spam the Eerie Impulse. That's one of the nice things about it. You can potentially put this Raging Bolt down to -4, and then it really won't be able to do the damage.
Okay, okay, this is like the first ad we got. He's just raw.
Of course, the Incineroar was threatened by the Urshifu now that it no longer has access to its fake out. So Surging Strikes could have easily gone into that slot, and that's probably why Shohei has switched in his own Urshifu.
And this Raging Bolt is going to take another
so if you take another Eerie Impulse, he's like,
that is now -4 stages if you factor out the booster energy, and it will look so sad in the amount of damage that it does. Usually those booster energy Raging Bolts with that special attack boost are able to get those one-hit knockouts into the Urshifus, but this one is around to just continue to start stacking up the damage here for Flavio as Shohei switches out that Incineroar into the Urshifu.
So that's not too much damage for any of the trainers here. Like, it's going to all add up, but the -4 Thunderclap, that just was not the damage you were expecting. Booster Energy Thunderclap is usually able to one-shot an Urshifu, so very comfortable survival. But of course, the Urshifu switching in is going to be able to soak up the Surging Strikes as well, but is now open to a potential Wild Bolt Storm coming from the Thunderous. And given that it's the Mystic Water variant of the Urshifu, we'll have to see the training of whether the Thunderous has invested completely into its Bolt, or it's going to be able to outspeed the opposing Urshifu, because if it does, then it's threatened by that Wild Bolt Storm straight up.
Look at this. I mean, the Thunderous takes another... I mean, the Wild Bolt Storm actually does just outspeed. And so that is a knockout onto the Urshifu from Shohei. This is already off to a much better start here for Flavio. I mean, yeah, that Thunderclap was pretty pitiful into the Thunderous, and the fact that it was able to survive, you're going to be able to get a lot. I mean, speaking of pitiful, Raging Bolt is still very good at taking damage.
Yeah, it's one of the best counters we have to Urshifu. It didn't look like it based on the damage of the Thunderclap, but you can see there it is soaking up those Surging Strikes pretty comfortably. But then this is one of the downsides of having that booster energy instead of leftovers, because the Raging Bolt's been sat on the field since turn 1, and it would start to be able to recover off all that damage if it had leftovers, and because of all the area impulses, that's kind of negated the booster energy. You can switch out the Raging Bolt to reset those drops, but of course the booster energy boost will go with it. Chien-Pao is a good Pokemon to switch in here against the Thundurus though, because you do threaten the KO onto that Thundurus with the Icicle Crash, but you're not really threatening the opposing Urshifu too much. Just based on the damage that Thunderclap did, it would be quite close if a Sucker Punch and Thunderclap was able to pick up the knockout there.
And I don't like the opportunity, like the potential that Shohei can take out the Raging Bolt to shed those drops, but then Incineroar has to come in, and that's something that I think you can read if you're Flavio. Very safe to just keep going for Surging Strikes into that slot. But there's not going to be a switch here.
That's going to be close. It is just
going to be a Sucker Punch and the Thunderclap to follow up. The Urshifu has a 1 HP survival, and that is going to keep it around to go for additional damage on this turn as the Wild Bolt Storm connects onto both. It's the close combat, and I think this Urshifu has done more than enough. He deserves a very big sandwich after this.
Oh, absolutely. I said it was going to be close. I didn't realize it would be as close as it could possibly have been. Wow, what a well-trained Urshifu coming out from Flavio here. Because now, the Incineroar is going to come in, and it's going to be threatened by the Surging Strikes, of course.
I mean,
but you have to commit another Thunderclap to be able to KO it now. And that Raging Bolt, because we're down to the last 2 Pokemon, can't switch out now. It's stuck at -4 for the rest of the game. And Flavio hasn't even revealed his back 2 Pokemon. It's just been the Thundurus.
Okay, so now he goes
and that Raging Bolt, because we're down to the last 2 Pokemon, can't switch out now. It's stuck at -4.
The Raging Bolt can't switch. We aren't really... Like, he can survive, like, 3 more freaking Surging Strikes, but so now he goes for the Tom because he
for
can't,
the rest of the game, and Flavio hasn't even revealed his back 2 Pokemon. It's just been the Thundurus and the Urshifu taking care of Shohei's team. Very, very nicely done here. Of course, we've got that Protect because you want to keep yourself safe from the Fake Out and then force the Thunderclap into the Urshifu. So that's exactly what we're going to be seeing here.
Yeah, the Thunderclap will happen on the next turn because you want to deny the Urshifu from being able to get a chance to move. But Flavio knows with this Raging Bolt stuck at that -4, the only way that Shohei can get around those special attack drops is by going for Calm Mind. So the taunt is there to shut it off, and this Dragon Pulse is going to be a 4-hit knockout with how much damage it just took there.
Yeah, that's not much damage at all. Yeah, we got through the Fake Out turn. Of course, the Urshifu is going to be felled to a Thunderclap if the Raging Bolt does go for that. But then you've still got some pretty good damage coming out from Wild Bolt Storm, and you do have access to whatever's in the back. Aqua Jet is going to be able to bypass that Thunderclap very nicely, though.
And so that is, if the Thunderclap was picked, which it will not be able to actually connect on its mark. So Wild Bolt Storm is going to be the next follow. A little bit of a critical hit there, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day because both these Pokemon are going to be pretty bulky. Thundurus, you also deserve a well-earned rest after all of the support you were able to provide to Flavio's game in this game #1. And you can see a preview of what we have in the back. I think either of these options will get Flavio the win.
Yeah, it definitely should. I don't think it really matters at this point which Pokemon Flavio decides to go into, as we can see either the Gouging Fire or the Dragonite. So we do have Terrestrialization still available, so that could be a potential way back into the game, but I think there's just been way too much damage here. You can very safely even go for something like an Aqua Jet and an Extreme Speed into the Incineroar if you did want to. That would bypass any of the Thunderclap that could come out from the Raging Bolt. And I think that the Dragonite just itself is in a very comfortable position. Yes, Dragon Pulse is super effective, but that doesn't particularly matter when you're -4, and the Incineroar won't be able to do too much damage to that Dragonite either. So it seems like a pretty comfortable position for Flavio. Just playing it safe, though, on this turn. Just protecting the Dragonite.
Yeah, I think you want to keep that Dragonite with the multi-scale available. You are going to lose your Urshifu at this point in time because the Thunderclap is finally able to knock it out. And the Incineroar does its best to be able to get some amount of damage into this Dragonite, but you kind of given yourself this potential of bringing in the Gouging Fire, setting up a Howl. You're really hoping to see if this Raging Bolt would have had the Terrestrialization so you can pick your next move effectively, because this is now where you kind of have to make a choice. Is the Raging Bolt going to Terra? So do you need to actually click Iron Head, or can you click Scale Shot and knock it out that way?
I mean, you always want to try and avoid clicking Scale Shot if you can help it. If we're in this endgame where it seems like Flavio should have a path to victory, and you want to try and get it as 100% accurate as possible, Scale Shot will do it. If a Scale Shot connects, that's gonna be the game. but you have to risk that shaky accuracy. Is there a way that Flavio can find that potentially doesn't rely on that shaky accuracy? You do have access to extreme speed and iron heads that are 100% accurate. You do have access to the breaking swipes that can still do some reasonable damage. Heat Crash will not be the one.
It's hard when you can't read.
That the Gouging Fire needs to go for. It could just even be content to maybe just howl up the Dragonite, because the Dragonite could be doing some really good damage here as well.
Well, at bare minimum, Flavio knows that going for the Terra Fairy on this Gouging Fire is going to make it invulnerable to the Dragon Pulses from the Raging Bolt. One way that the Raging Bolt can get around its lack of damage is just by being able to get a critical hit. But now I think that even that potential is completely off the board here. Raging Bolt is going to be on its final drudges of HP with the Dragon Pulse into the Dragonite with that multi-scale intact. That is exactly why we saw that protect earlier on. It's just going to be a double damage here into the Raging Bolt to pick up the final KO.
Yeah, this will be just extreme speed and a Heat Crash potentially, or even a breaking swipe if you're concerned about the Terra, but you shouldn't be at this point. The Raging Bolt is pretty dealt with. It's not doing the damage. Like, that was supposed to be super effective into the Dragonite, right? And it did very, very little. So we were saying before, the Thunderous didn't seem to do much in the previous round against the similar team, but it did a lot of work in this one because that -4 on the Raging Bolt, it just sat on the field the entire time and didn't really do too much. So yeah, that's going to be the first game win for Flavio.
One more game win, championship stacked on some time with
the Ursha support. But then the training is quite important. Outspeeding there was crucial. I think the biggest thing was the 1 HP. I don't have my -4. That's what you want to see as a trainer, because then that proves that you
chip with them too. Game number 2, I got this team to be.
He even had the same lead.
If Shohei can play around that a little bit differently,
he had the same lead.
I looked switch to be able to. For both of Gecko. So as we enter into this game 2 and we see run back of the leads here for both of our trainers for the second game,
same lead again.
This first turn does have to go differently.
Yeah, well, you can't fake out the Thunderous once again. It can still be an Eerie Impulse into that Raging Bolt. And even if you do go for the Thunderclap into the Urshifu, it didn't protect in the first game. Then the Eerie Impulse still out-prioritizes that Thunderclap because Thunderous is just naturally faster, so its Prankster will go slightly before the priority of the Thunderclap, and then you still won't be able to pick up the knockout. We saw the -4 was doing about a third, so that means -2 would not be able to pick up the KO on this Urshifu. I still wouldn't be surprised if we see the fake out into that Urshifu, because if you don't go for that, and you get the Eerie Impulse into the Raging Bolt, then you get a guaranteed Surging Strikes into the Incineroar, and that's going to be doing some very...
So it's the same lead, but now the mix-up is like, last time Incineroar did a fake out into Urshifu, but now it's a question of whether it's going to go
damage. Maybe not a KO because of the safety goals item choice on the Urshifu rather than the boosting item of Mystic Water.
I still think it's the same play here.
It's still, I think, still quite an awkward position for Shohei, and that's might be why he is repositioning that
Impulse.
Yeah, instead of leaving it on the field, it is just going to be a Rillaboom.
And then, like I said, on the first
here to be able to
game
bring that in. You do have the Assault Vest going to help out versus that Thunderous's special attack, but you also just have great natural typing that will help to deal with the Urshifu and this Thunderous. Now, the Eerie Impulse is going to drop the special attack of this Raging Bolt again,
is that the same?
And it is just so abnormal to see this Raging Bolt do as little as it is.
I mean, in phase 1, we were seeing it pick up 1-hit KOs.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just not doing the damage.
That was the exact same thing that happened on turn the first game. Except he swapped this time into Rillaboom, so now he has even more fake out pressure. I just don't know why he didn't.
What was really nice there for Shohei, pivoting in that Rillaboom in for the Incineroar, means that Fake Out is once again active if he does want to go for that. And you're also threatening the Urshifu with those Grass-type attacks. Granted, a Grassy Glide is not usually enough to get home the Urshifu, but I reckon that with the -4 Thunderclap, that should be able to get it as well.
I think with the double up, that would be a KO onto the Urshifu. I agree with you, but there was a way that this Urshifu could maybe get around that, and that is going to be with a Terra. It was the Terra Fairy for the Gouging Fire in that first game, but now Flavio is committed to keeping this Urshifu up so that he can actually get something going. whether it is going to just be like a close combat, he has a lot of different options at his disposal. Surging Strikes will cover beautifully for any sort of switch-ins as well. Another Eerie Impulse drops his Raging Bolt to -4 without that booster energy. And the it's actually just going to be a target into the Thunderous. And so with the Wood Hammer, you do get a chance to deal with that
but then you Dragon Pulse into...
But I don't think the damage is going to be able to be followed up here by that Raging Bolt. Even a Dragon Pulse, you gotta hope for a crit here to be able to knock it out, and that is just not going to come through and not going to cut it.
Yeah, -4 once again on the Raging Bolt, showing why Flavio is going for that strategy. That's just not the damage that we want to be seeing from a booster energy Raging Bolt. Granted, the Thunderous is probably in range of Grassy Glide, but again, Thunderous is way naturally faster than Rillaboom. If it wants to do one more prankster shenanigan on the way out, it will be able to do that before that Grassy Glide could hit it and knock out, pick up the knockout there.
So I actually like Shohei's
reasonably in a good position here, but you've got to contend with the fact that it's just dropped its defense from the close combat. So you can do extra damage, but at least with the steel typing, you're in a pretty comfortable position against this Raging Bolt and Rillaboom.
Flavio knows that Thunderous is Shohei's #1 priority to try to get rid of, since it has already been such a nuisance to this Raging Bolt. And Flavio is going to preserve it for later. But with the Gouging Fire now being the switch-in, it is going to be the one that tanks that the U-turn. And with the U-turn, you get a chance to pivot back out into something else, but it's risky. Because if it's not Incineroar, you could just get knocked out by the Urshifu.
No, it's the Urshifu instead, and the Rillaboom moved before the Urshifu as well. That's quite uncommon for that to be able to happen. Again, we've seen why Raging Bolt is a very good counter to the opposing Urshifu. But yeah, Rillaboom U-turn before the Surging Strikes there. That can be trained to be the case if you run Rillaboom as fast as possible. You can do that.
That's why I thought it was a Grassy Glide at first until I realized that it had pivoted out. Because Rillaboom, it isn't usually faster than the Urshifu's there, so it must have a lot of speed investment, which I guess maybe the Assault Vest is going to be picking up some of the...
Yes, Protect, Howl. The Focuses Fire move. Strong Fire move, Breaking Swipe. Heat Crash. Like, he doesn't have any... There's no damage here.
Lack of special defense investment that
he goes for the Howl.
I mean, it might have also been the fact that the Urshifu sacrificed all its speed to get the bolt that allowed it to survive on that 1 HP in the first game. That could be entirely possible as well. And the Gouging Fire switching in here, it had to take a Dragon Pulse on the way in, and we saw again in phase 1. Catching the Dragon on the switch in is usually a one-hit knockout, but the -4 coming into play again. That didn't even do half with the super effective hit into that Gouging Fire.
And Shohei is maybe going to keep this Raging Bolt here. First return is going to be this Dragonite, and no other switches come through. It's just Howl. It's going to help boost up this Gouging Fire and the fresh Dragonite that just switched in. It's not under any threat from this Raging Bolt because we saw how little that even just that Dragon Pulse was doing. That multi-scale is going to get broken though by the Surging Strikes from the Urshifu, but I think even then this Dragonite is going to be able to stick around.
Dragon Pulse goes into this Dragonite, right? Oh my god, it does.
And yeah, it's just not even close.
Yeah, it's not. I would consider at this point switching out the Raging Bolt. You're doing some reasonable damage just because of the fact the Dragon Pulse is a super effective hit. But if you switch out, you've reset all of those drops. You've sacrificed your booster energy. That's worth it because then you'll still be doing way more damage than you would do coming back in at neutral with no item.
I will say though, if you caught a quick glimpse there are 3 Pokemon on Flavio's side that have taken a considerable amount of damage at this point. And Shohei still has 4 Pokemon remaining. Shohei is definitely in a much better spot in this game 2 than he was in game 1.
Yeah, his Pokemon are way healthy. You can see the Raging Bolt's barely taking any damage. The Urshifu is still at full HP. It might be close if the Gouging Fire is in range of a Surging Strikes. I would suspect with its great defenses, it should just about be able to survive. So maybe you consider a Thunderclap as well, just to get that tiny bit of extra damage. But there we go. That is the switch out. The -4 is gone.
Minus 4 is gone, booster energy consumed, but that Raging Bolt gets to come back in very healthy thanks to all of this grassy terrain recovery that the Rillaboom has laid in front of it. But the Gouging Fire is just going to keep going for these cute little breaking swipes. Not going to do a whole lot of damage, but the fact that you've got 2 physical attackers in front of you is going to help. Not when it's Surging Strikes with those critical hits, but even if you switch to if you pick something else, then it will definitely matter.
Yeah, the Urshifu outspeeding the Dragon Knight there is quite crucial. It doesn't have to be that way around. We've already seen the Urshifu outspeeding the Rillaboom, but it seems like Shohei has prioritized a bit more speed in the Urshifu here because the Scale Shot Dragon Knights are run pretty fast. So Urshifu can naturally outspeed that and has worked out very, very nicely here because you've got that Incineroar to get the Intimidate on the Gouging Fire. That reactivates your Fake Out pressure. And at this point, I think Thunderous is probably even in range of Fake Outs. Yes, you don't go for the flinch because of the Covert Cloak. You might just even be able to pick up the knockouts. And then that just frees up the Urshifu to go for the Surging Strikes into the Gouging Fire.
But I don't know if that is the case with that Breaking Swipe attack drop that the Incineroar just took. I think it will be very close, and that means that Thunderous might be able to stick around. The problem, though, is that Shohei could just invest Fake Out and Aqua Jet into the Thunderous. Make sure that you're going to be getting around any sort of issues with that, but I think Shohei just decides to play it a little safe. Going to protect the Urshifu just in case this Thunderous is going to be a bit faster. And you saw there that Thunderous was trying to go for a Prankster attack. Another Breaking Swipe, though, and, or just a Howl, sorry, from this Gouging Fire is going to boost up its own attack stat here as the Incineroar plays no games, doesn't want to take any risks with the Fake Out, not hitting the KO. It is just going to be the Flare Blitz to finish the job. Yeah, that was much safer for Shohei coming out there because the Incineroar was so healthy. It was not at risk at being knocked out, even if it had been something like a Breaking Swipe and Wild Bolt Storm. So that was basically guaranteed to get rid of the Thunderous and therefore keep the Urshifu safe from any of the practice shenanigans that could have come out. And also from the Wild Bolt Storm that would have done some very good damage. Now you can still go for the Surging Strikes pretty comfortably. Nothing's really threatening this Urshifu anymore. Like, you've got the close combat, I guess, from the opposing Urshifu, but given that the Rillaboom outsped, I would assume that the Urshifu on Shohei's side of the field is surely going to be faster, and even if you can get a Breaking Swipe in close combat to potentially KO, which it probably doesn't given its safety goals, you'd still be able to do some great damage, but not on this turn though. The Urshifu switching out instead. Going to switch out, and it is going to be a return of the Rillaboom. Makes a lot of sense when you are going to be looking at the Surging Strikes as a potential option for the Urshifu, and in fact going to just be a double switch. Okay, so Shohei has decided that he's going to bring back in the Rillaboom and the Raging Bolt. Yeah, there really isn't too much that's going to be threatening either, but it actually switches into a Breaking Swipe, and that does look like a pretty big critical hit there. Definitely matters to see if it's going to actually shore this up. Rillaboom takes the close combat, does drop its defenses here, and that might end up being crucial for the Pokemon that are going to be left, but I think Shohei actually makes a pretty big misstep here with that Raging Bolt taking so much damage on the return. Yeah, there's been a couple of howls on the Gouging Fire, so even though Breaking Swipe is usually there for the supportive capabilities of dropping the attack, Gouging Fire still got some pretty good offense behind it. You can see there it was a +1 after the Intimidate, howling twice. So yeah, really good damage into the Raging Bolt, and it's going to be in range of another one thanks to the critical hits. So you got to be a little bit wary now on Shohei's side of the field. I still think that the Urshifu on his side is in a very, very comfortable position, especially so now that we did see the close combat come out from Urshifu on Flavio's side of the field, dropping its defenses. So now the Surging Strikes will do even more damage, and because it's turned into that steel typing, then you can safely go for, or even just something like a close combat should be able to pick up the knockout, and you can't protect from that. Yes, you could Breaking Swipe and potentially reduce that, so it just depends. Do you want to go for a -1 close combat, or do you want to get the critical hit on the Surging Strikes while sacrificing the super effective hits? Well, the Raging Bolt is going to once again return to its Pokeball, retreat in the face of danger. This Gouging Fire still has that booster energy speed, so there isn't really another way for this Raging Bolt to get around that aside of going for Thunderclap, which isn't going to threaten a KO onto either Pokemon. Incineroar switches in, gets a nice Intimidate drop onto both the Urshifu and the Gouging Fire, but the close combat is plenty worth. Swipe the build up on Dragon Pulse, but Pokemon have a lot of heat as an additional swipe on to the
out from Flavio was very effective in that game one. So are we going to see any of the adjustments coming out from either of these trainers? I think that the adjustment is more likely to come from Shohei's side, given the fact that, well, Flavio, you'd probably think adjustments is more likely to come from Shohei's side, given the fact that, well, Flavio, you'd probably
fucking gouging
consider it maybe an anti-meta kind of team.
I do think hit ability.
Yeah. This is sometimes not enough damage if you don't get like power.
Back to the Flavio. All important game 3, and there is an adjustment from both of these trainers.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I wanted to see. But this is the same thing that happened. This is the same thing that happened with Francisca. Let's go back to Francisca. Let's go back to Francisco. Francisco has the same. The first 2 games of the last match we were just watching, he has the exact same lead. Urshifu Thunderous against the exact same opposite side with Incineroar and Raging Ball. We literally just saw this 3 times today already, by the way. But then game 2, Francisco has Thunderous and Ting Lu. And guess what this motherfucker? What the fuck is this guy's name? Oh god. Is this the game? What's the game? I lost it. Hold on. Okay, Thunderous Ting Lu. Thunderous Ting Lu. Oh, that's okay. Thunderous. I broke it. So take about.
Going to see if the adjustment
Thunderous
from
Ting
both
Lu
of these trainers
with Urshifu and Qianpao. It's the exact same swap.
Qianpao here for Shohei next to the Urshifu.
This is the same game.
Gonna be Ting Lu now making an appearance for Flavio in the third and final.
Okay. So the first time we saw this, we lost Thunderous on turn 1.
And this has surely got to be advantage to Shohei, because as we've established, the Qianpao is immune to the prankster moves. That can come out from Thunderous, and it's able to pick up a one-hit knockout onto that Thunderous with the Ice Crush. And you've also got the Urshifu threatening that Ting Lu. Granted, you need to probably protect on this turn just to keep yourself safe from any of the prankster moves or the Wild Bot Storm that can come out from the Thunderous. But then, after that, if you've got the Ice Crash KO into the Thunderous, then you'd be able to follow up with massive damage with Surging Strikes. You might need to consider a Terastallization on the Thunderous here. That's the only way to keep it safe on this turn. Of course, you could switch out, but then you're taking an Ice Crash on the way in, because I would be very surprised if Ice Crash doesn't go into that slot.
I would be as well. I think this Qianpao is threatening a lot for both of these Pokemon. So Terastallization, a necessary resource to expend on this first turn for either Pokemon. It is used on the Thunderous to be able to give it that Terra Water, which gives it a better matchup into both the Qianpao and the Urshifu. But this Icicle Crash still has a secondary effect, and that is a potential to cause a flinch. Does it? Thunderous breaks through. Gets a Wild Bolt Storm onto both Pokemon. But the Urshifu can come back with these Surging Strikes. 3 hits for Surging Strikes. It might just be a one-move knockout. One more, and the Ting Lu goes down. Flavio does not get a chance to get any damage off with his Pokemon, and it was just a bait.
Yeah, that's really nicely done from Shohei. Like we just said, the Protect could have happened to keep the Urshifu safe as you attempted to KO the Thunderous, but Shohei reading through that absolutely perfectly, and I think that was like a perfectly trained Urshifu to be able to pick up the knockout on that Ting Lu, because that was incredibly close if the 3 would have done it, but it has done it, and that's the crucial part. And actually, the Wild Bot Storm did way less damage than I was expecting it to do as well. So that's probably a reasonable amount of bulk into the Urshifu, which is still impressive given it's able to outspeed some Pokemon on Flavio's side of the field as well.
Okay, that damage
I
that
do think
Thundurus
this is
actually...
a very critical turn. And, you know, you do have both of the Pokemon on Shohei's side very low. The Wild Bolt Storm would be a knockout onto the Urshifu, but you would barely miss it on the Chien-Pao. The Gouging Fire is very fast though, so I think it can help to kind of pick up the pieces there. Yeah, the Breaking Swipe can come through first, and of course now that there's a Water type on the Thundurus, it's not weak to any of the Icicle Crashes. You could potentially follow up with the Wild Bolt Storm. Breaking Swipe and Wild Bolt Storm would be a double knockout here. So maybe you do need to be repositioning with on Shohei's side of the field. You could maybe switch in one of the pivot pals and protect either the Urshifu or the Chien-Pao. There wouldn't be too much that could punish that. Rillaboom's a perfectly reasonable switch into a Wild Bolt Storm and a Breaking Swipe. So would Incineroar be. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is one of those pivot pals. I mean, you saw that there was the consideration of just going for a Heat Crash into the Urshifu just to kind of cover for if that Rillaboom had made an appearance. But it's just going to be the Incineroar Sucker Punch to ensure some damage, and the Heat Crash into the Incineroar is definitely not the target that you would have wanted to see. And I think Flavio is going to be a little bit upset that the Wild Bolt Storm did not actually pick up the KO onto that Chien-Pao.
Yeah, it also didn't get a paralysis. That could have come through and would have put Shohei in a very uncomfortable position. But now it's a little bit more reasonable. You've got Fake Out Pressure into that Gouging Fire, which you probably do need to go for to be able to keep your Chien-Pao safe, to be able to go on the offense. Granted, it could just go for the Sucker Punch into the Thundurus to try and pick up the knockout, but then that's incredibly risky given that it can just go for a Prankster move to try and bypass it, or it can switch out instead. And that's probably the preference given you've got two Dark types on the opposing side of the field, so the Prankster would just be to avoid the Sucker Punch. So, yeah, I think that Chien-Pao surviving, well, we did see that it was probably going to survive the Wild Bolt Storm based on the first amount of damage, but that is going to allow another nice chunk of damage into this Thundurus. Well, maybe not the Thundurus, but whatever's switching in.
Let's see. It is
doesn't want to switch in on Icicle Crash.
Dragonite, yeah, it certainly does not want to see that. Incineroar's first to go for the Fake Out, so we know that that priority increase is going to give it the bracket, and the Icicle Crash into the Dragonite. The multi-skill doesn't save it from that 4-time super effective hit, and it gets one hit knocked out. Yeah, that's a fantastic play from the Chien-Pao there. The Thundurus was surely in range of Icicle Crash, even if it's a Water type. So that just covers for the Dragonite switching in. Very, very nicely done now. And we already established there's two Dark types on the opposing side of the field. You have to go for Wild Bolt Storm, because otherwise your moves are useless. But that opens up the potential to Sucker Punch. So do you consider just doing nothing with the Thundurus if the Chien-Pao is going for that Sucker Punch? No, it went on the offense, and it is KO'd. Two KOs for this Chien-Pao back to back as the Thundurus also goes down. Three more Pokemon.
I can't. These... God, these people losing in the same way. The same thing. We just watched this before, man. I thought Flavio had it. What's the next
How about
match?
the individual people, team?
Remember the surname, but not the first name.
Do I want to watch this? Yuto's team is interesting.
That had, you know, this but
The Pokemon.
It's great.
Also a fantastic artist as well. Thank you, Gabriel. Alongside
and
rid of that early on is if you don't and that would.
It's going to be able to put itself in the game as a support.
Okay, terrifying. Okay. Ice Beam, Recover, Trick Room. It's like both a Trick Room and a Tailwind team, which is really interesting. Which I didn't really know that was viable. I mean, you can do... It definitely is. It definitely is.
Support and an offensive pressure.
This team also Snuggie doesn't have enough damage. Because Porygon 2 isn't going to do that much damage. Incineroar's not going to do that much damage. Potentially. And Tornadus isn't. And Amoonguss isn't going to do that much damage.
Moving over to Yuto's team, however, we've got that classic combination of Porygon 2 with the Ursaluna. Round of
Show me what you got, Yuto.
for that.
Show me what you got.
With that Surging Strikes and the Life Orb.
I like that call out though about the hybrid energy that this team is bringing. You have that slow Trick Room mode, but you can also completely flip the script and go for the speedier offensive variant. And sometimes the call of that turn 0, you know, which one is Yuta going to commit to? If Gabriel can get that right, he can adjust accordingly, but otherwise it could be devastating. We've got a little bit of a contrast out there on the field with the Amoonguss and the Tornadus. You know, one's fast, one's slow, but then for Gabriel Agati, it is the Urshifu and the Incineroar.
Yeah, the Incineroar is nice here. It can provide a little bit of fake out support here against...
Interesting enough with this team, usually either, like I would have bet money that either Incineroar or Urshifu would have had safety goggles here, but none of them have safety goggles here. That's probably why he did this lead.
Specifically the threat of Spore from the Amoonguss that can threaten sleep onto either the Incineroar or the Urshifu this first turn, especially when supported by that Tornadus that can set the tailwind. If that does go off, depending on how the Amoonguss has been trained, could even surpass the Incineroar here and bypass an attack and just put it to sleep, which is something Gabriel wants to probably try and avoid this first turn. But is it likely the Incineroar does have that grass terror typing there? It can get around that, but if you go down that route, then the Tornadus can just threaten with a Bleak Wind Storm, super effective damage into not only the Urshifu that's threatened from that right now, but also that Incineroar. So we'll see how things play out. Not preferable to keep that on the field here. Liz just switching out from Yuto.
Yeah, Tornadus not wanting to make that call. It is running the Sharp Beak, not the Covert Cloak, so it would have been vulnerable to the potential fake out. So an adjustment here on Yuto's side, and actually an adjustment apiece. Amoonguss is going to get out of there as well. Yuto wanting to completely shake things up, bringing his own Incineroar into the fray. This Intimidate is going to be really nice down onto both these physical attackers, and then he has that fake out advantage going into the next turn.
Yeah, and that's it. I think Yuto not feeling super comfortable with what they brought out onto the field and going to the match exactly what Gabriel's got. And Gabriel, we've said it before, when an opponent tries to play that catch-up game, they can be maybe sometimes on the back foot. We'll have to see what decisions Gabriel's went with and see if it actually is something they can capitalize with. Fake out into that Incineroar there, followed up by a Terrestrialization into Urshifu, boosting their Surging Strikes, but a good catch by Yuto. Nice switch in, probably the best potential switch in that they've got, considering the Amoonguss was out on the field at the time.
Yeah, the Urshifu really embracing its water-type potential, going for the Terrestrialization here to make these Surging Strikes hit as hard as possible, but a fantastic adjustment on Yuto's side. I'm sure Gabriel would have much rather liked to have seen that go into the Incineroar.
Yeah, definitely into that Incineroar slot. Now Yuto has the access to that fake out, so could slow things down on Gabriel's side of the field and prevent the Incineroar from taking too much damage. And the nice thing that Yuto's got as well is that switch into the Amoonguss in the back that can come in, soak up the Surging Strikes. But also Yuto has the ability to put a lot of pressure onto Gabriel's Incineroar, maybe force a switch out there, because Surging Strikes into that slot is going to do a lot of damage. You've got to be careful around the Rocky Helmet, especially if we do see Gabriel lock in with, well, they cannot lock in with the Terrestrialization. Now that has been spent so early on in this game, so that Incineroar is going to be very vulnerable this next turn, and while we're seeing Gabriel switch that out.
I mean, Gabriel has the utility to support it. You have Incineroar and you also have the Rillaboom. Both of these Pokemon love to pivot in and out and support its partner with the fake out, slowing down the pace of play and enabling the Urshifu in this situation to get damage on the board. The fake out, however, was on Yuto's side, so it is going to be able to shut down that Urshifu. It is Choice Scarf, had no utility to protect, and it's going to have to take the follow-up close combat that gets the knockout. So no matter how hard Urshifu tried, no matter how hard Rillaboom and Incineroar tried to support, it was all in vain.
Yeah, and you can see the power boost that the Life Orb gives the Urshifu on Yuto's side. Has been intimidated either from that close combat, to go after from that Life Orb, enough to take it down. Not something that we commonly see here. Gabriel losing a key piece of their team. Terrestrialization gone as well. Yuto looking in a really good position, even though there are two grass types on the field now, and the Urshifu on Yuto's side, not in the most comfortable position, but has an easy switch in the back. You can bring in the Amoonguss if you suspect a Wood Hammer. You've got to be careful around the Ivy Cudgel that's active, though.
Yeah, I mean, a switch is definitely coming here from Yuto. Which Pokemon is switching? I mean,
to that Urshifu slot and Amoonguss switches in, things could even up quite quickly.
But also now that you've got rid of the Urshifu, I feel like Yuto with the Tornadoes in the back can quite freely almost click a Rain Dance here. The Rain Dance is going to stop the offensive pressure that Ogerpon can deal with the Fire-type Ivy Cudgel, for example, or that Incineroar with a Flare Blitz, as well as boosting up the accuracy of its very own Bleak Wind Storm. And as you said, there's 2 Grass types out there. It's going to be able to hit well with that Flying type attack. So if Yuto can maybe pivot that in, it could be an opportunity to open up an end game. Fake Out, however, just comes straight down onto the Incineroar, and it's going to have to take the double up of the Ivy Cudgel. Not a huge amount of damage, maybe thinking a switch was coming through, but the damage comes.
Oh my god! I think he thought Incineroar was going to switch to Amoonguss or Tornadoes.
Once again, that is a solid one-hit KO, Lee. Wow!
That is huge here, and you can
why?
see what Gabriel was trying to
straight down the dance here. The Urshifu
to Woodhammer. You've got to put switches in.
But he,
as well as boosting to hit well.
He used Fake Out on
Flying type attack, so if Yuto can maybe pivot that in, it could be an opportunity to open up an
I'm confused about that.
Once again, that is a solid one-hit KO, Lee. Wow!
That is huge here, and you can see what Gabriel was trying to do, maybe fish for that switch on Yuto's end, because maybe you want to get that Tornadoes onto the field, but not falling for it, staying tried, tested, and true. Yuto saying, I'm just going to keep my Urshifu on the field and take advantage of maybe a position, because I'm so threatened. It's so obvious I have to switch it out. I'll protect it in this scenario that you're probably not going to attack into it and waste a turn. Let's focus all the energy onto the Incineroar, and that's exactly what played out, taking that close combat when it was presented and knocking out another key pivotal Pokemon from Gabriel's side of the field.
Oh my goodness, I mean the Urshifu is running that Life Orb, not something we see every day, so that's going to add a little bit more momentum to the calculations, and looks like Gabriel's saying, let's just close up this game 1.
And the very quick, that big turning point here was this where you could what Gabriel
the surging damage
into this game.
The stage, a peak top cut for both at the European International Championships. Incineroar and Urshifu take center stage, a piece for both Yuto and Gabriel.
Yeah, I think Gabriel coming into this game 2 is a bit more aware of the threat of that Urshifu and wanting to really prioritize dealing with that as soon as possible. Nice lead there with the Incineroars on both sides, just being able to reduce the attack on risky in front of another Urshifu, but with it being intimidated, the close combat not going to hit as hard, but it can pivot out, it can go for the U-turn if it wants to maybe readjust.
Both Incineroars
because I think if you are Gabriel, you probably want to get the Rillaboom onto the field as soon as possible to try and help deal and alleviate the threat that was so prevalent in that game 1.
We'll have to see what the Fake Out lands as well from both these Incineroars. First move is going to be Yuto's going down into that opposing Urshifu, and it's a cross again from Incineroar into the opposing Urshifu. So just a little bit of chip here. No Focus Sashes to have to contend with, but Urshifu on Gabriel's side running that.
Same play as well. Incineroar, if you want to keep it on the field,
should have been a
that grass type. So if the Surging Strike comes into that, then Rocky Helmet's going to play a pivotal role in being able to get extra damage onto the opposing Urshifu, which is an option. But you also need to try and get that Rillaboom onto the field as soon as possible before the Tornadoes or the Amoonguss come out, so you can function as well as you want.
But you don't have the same people here, so
well, both the Incineroars leave, but only one has an Amoonguss. Both grass types, however, seem to be the trend. Gabriel bringing in the Rillaboom to face down against the Mushroom that Yuto has brought in as the supportive pivot. Urshifu does go for the Surging Strikes, finds it onto the Amoonguss. There is no Rocky Helmet to have to contend with. It is running that Citrus Berry, but still not the target you want to find. This damage is so minimally.
Yeah, it is really, and it'll be interesting to see where Yuto goes with their Urshifu attack choice. Is it going to be a close combat again? No, it is a Surging Strike, and into the Urshifu this time. Maybe expecting a switch there, maybe a U-turn pivot out of what Yuto's playing for. So staying on the field, but now both players have their grass type of choice on the field. It's going to be a bit awkward for both of these Urshifus now. Namely, the Amoonguss can go for a Rage Powder if it wants to pull in those attacks, knowing that Gabriel is locked in to the Surging Strikes. So it kind of forces a situation where Gabriel probably wants to switch it out. But it's a great opportunity to do that because you do have active Fake Out. You're not threatened by a Spore on the Rillaboom that has to stay on the field and kind of support that this turn. So Gabriel in a situation where they can adjust a little bit easier than maybe Yuto wants to do this turn. But Yuto has access to protect protect not being locked in with that choice item.
And now the Rillaboom actually in an interesting situation. It has that potential priority Glassy Glide that can go down into the opposing Urshifu. The Rage Powder, obviously, Amoonguss not going to be able to utilize that strongly in this position, unless against the Urshifu. Yes, you can draw in the Surging Strikes, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure that your partner Pokemon can get damage on the board too.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. I think the damage has been kind of like, it's been mitigated a lot better by both trainers here. We are seeing the turn play out with a Rage Powder from that Amoonguss, so we'll draw in this Surging Strikes, but not the Grassy Glide. It will do some big impactful damage, not quite enough to pick up the knockout onto the opposing Urshifu, so that is going to be there left alone. And it can lock in with a close combat here, knowing that there is no Rage Powder on Gabrielle's side. If it goes for that, it's going to be able to pick up the knockout on this opposing Urshifu and remove a big key part of Gabrielle's plan.
This is the thing, we're not seeing KOs until this particular moment, but a lot of incremental damage is being stacked up. Those Surging Strikes into the Amoonguss could be very devastating in the end game, but of course Amoonguss has the trick up its sleeve where if Yuto wants to switch it out, it can use that Regenerator ability to get a lot of that HP back.
Yeah, and now Yuto doing so well here because now the Urshifu on Gabrielle's side of the field is fallen. It makes life so much easier for that Incineroar to pivot back onto the field and not have to worry about a potential knockout from the Surging Strikes. So
I mean, he literally
come in and
can't
can drop
kill
an all-important Intimidate onto two physical attackers that are now on the field. The one thing that you would say that Gabrielle still has a bit of an advantage with is the fact that the Ogerpon can Terastallize, get that attack boost if it needs to, and it is threatening the Amoonguss on the opposite side. The Amoonguss going for a Fairy Terastallization isn't going to be able to have any sort of defensive capabilities against being able to resist that attack. So it's an easy slot for Gabrielle to go into because that Grassy Glide is still active, still going to put a lot of pressure onto the knockout onto the Urshifu. It's a likely slot that will switch maybe this turn, but we said that game one. Is Yuto going to switch, or are they going to just say, I'm happy just leaving it on
the field? You get the Intimidate coming down if it's a close. Surely relieved draw once again on where they want them in play. Yeah,
and Amoonguss don't want to contend with any potential fire-type attacks that were coming out from towards the Ogerpon. So just protecting this turn, but a nice pivot here from the Rillaboom. Going to be able to go off the field and get the Ogerpon onto the field and not have to deal with that Intimidate that has just been introduced by Yuto, but will have to contend with a Fake Out this next turn round.
And in the first turn, we saw that it was Yuto's Incineroar that was the speedier. So if we're going to see two Fake Outs come down, we likely will see that happen again. And I think going down into the Ogerpon and then a Fake Out down into the opposing Amoonguss, or even that said, if you're Gabrielle and thinking the Fake Out's going to come down into Ogerpon, my Incineroar is free to just go for that Flare Blitz and try and remove the Amoonguss from play.
Yeah, that is definitely an option here. The play that you could do is maybe switch your Incineroar out, keep that Intimidate in the back, and then bring your Rillaboom back onto the field. So you've got that kind of line of support. Knowing that you have a slow Fake Out here, you could then leverage a Fake Out the next turn. And the problem with if you leave your Incineroar, it gets faked out. The Amoonguss has a free turn to maybe go for a Spore here into the Incineroar and Terastallize here. So it depends where Yuto wants to put their eggs this turn. But there are some options here. But like you say, the Flare Blitz is an immediate threat, and maybe why we're seeing the Amoonguss switch out.
Yeah, Amoonguss just getting out of there in the face of two Fire-type Pokemon, being replaced by that Tornadus that's been hiding in the back. This could be the opportunity, as we were saying earlier, for Tornadus to try and get that Rain Dance up, either to just neutralize some of the offensive pressure the Fire-type moves can deal, or you can even maybe try and go for a Tailwind, get yourself a little bit of speed up. I think the critical thing here, however, on Ogerpon's side, it has got that Embody aspect. It is trying to bring its attack stat up higher as the Fake Out finds its mark there. Incineroar still in play. If it does want to go, I was going to say, if it did want to go for something like the U-turn, this could be a great opportunity to do exactly what you said and bring that Rillaboom in, but instead was just going for that clean Fake Out.
Yeah, and now the Ogerpon not in a bad position, right? The Intimidate is already active on the field, and so Yuto to get that onto the Ogerpon is going to have to switch that out and then bring it back onto the field. So that's a bit of a clunky situation to slow that down. You do have the Tornadus, though, that can provide Tailwind support here, which is going to be really instrumental once you can get your own Urshifu back on the field. And the nice thing that Gabrielle's got in their back pocket is they're no longer part of Grass type. So it's good in one way that you're not weak to frequent storms that can threaten. But the Rain Dance is going to be a bit of a detriment to you if that does come out from the Tornadus with one of the supporting options. But saying that, at the same time, you don't really want to bring the Urshifu onto the field anytime soon before that Tailwind, that Rain Dance is set up because of the threat of that Grassy Glide that the Ogerpon on Gabrielle's side has.
Exactly, and the rain is now in the sky. The Ogerpon goes for the Ivy Cudgel. thanks to the rain being present, it is not going to be able to get the knockout here as Incineroar goes into its opponent with a U-turn. So positioning up on Yuto's side, this could be an opportunity to bring that Urshifu in from the back with the rain in the sky to boost up its water type attacks.
Yeah, and this would be really good positioning here, because I think then with the Tornadus being able to take that initial Ivy Cudgel, it's still in the field active, it's going to be able to set up that Tailwind the next turn and put that Urshifu in a prime position to take advantage of the rain instead with the Life Orb and those surging strikes that are going to be so formidable for both the Ogerpon and this Incineroar to have to deal with.
Exactly, and Yuto taking every second to think, which Pokemon do I want to bring? It's going to be that Urshifu. It doesn't have a lot of HP remaining, so it needs to be able to move fast, and it's able to hang on despite the knockoff coming through. Fantastic play from the Urshifu. It knows that its trainer is just one game away from looking up the top cut. You have to bear in mind, however, this is the Life Orb Urshifu. If it deals out damage, it's likely going to KO itself in the process.
Yeah, it will do, and the grassy terrain ending now, so the threat of Grassy Glide kind of just miraculously disappearing. But the one thing that Gabrielle could do this next turn is simply, even if the Tailwind is coming out, you expect that just go for the switch to Rillaboom, get your Grassy Glide activated once again, and go after that Urshifu, so it cannot take advantage of the Life Orb that it's got access to. By doing that, though, you potentially are putting yourself in harm's way of a Bleak Wind Storm, and that is not something that you really want to take unnecessary damage for, but it isn't worth the risk.
An adaptation coming through, Rillaboom takes to the stage and sets up that grassy terrain. That could be to its detriment, however, if the Urshifu on Yuto's side is going to be able to benefit from that in future turns. The Tailwind goes up, so it's fast and it's ready. The Aqua Jet priority, however, bypassing all of that into the Rillaboom. A smile from Gabrielle, knowing that that was a fantastic switch in, and Urshifu has gone down. The knockoff the second time around gets the KO.
Yeah, it's a really great way to deal with that huge threat on Yuto's side, and now things are looking a little bit brighter for Gabrielle, despite the rain on the field. You've got the Tailwind set, but you've got Fake Out support with that Rillaboom. We've already mentioned, Lou, that there's no cover cloak on the Tornadus, so you can just shut that down for a turn, prevent Bleak Wind Storm coming out. And Incineroar doing a lot of work here. There's nothing that really immediately threats it. I mean, the Amoonguss can come in and threaten with a Spore, but again, you're going to pressure with Flare Blitz, and you've also got your Ogerpon kind of waiting in the wings to come in at the time when it's right. And now the thing that Gabrielle needs to do is get rid of that Tornadus as soon as possible and knock off into
because it has Bleak Wind Storm, which is 100% accurate in the rain.
You pause in Incineroar from taking out this turn, give you the room to be able to do that. And even then, the Bleak Wind Storm, because you've got the Assault Vest on your own Rillaboom, will be able to take that quite comfortably.
That's the thing, the Tornadus is going to be a problem if it can get those sharp beak Bleak Wind Storms off, particularly in the rain. It's going to have that 100% accuracy. At least the Rillaboom is carrying that Assault Vest, so it is going to give it a little bit of special defensive coverage, and that Tornadus is at low HP. So I think a little combination here could be able to get the knockout.
Yeah.
The Ogerpon is going to struggle against the Incineroar in general because it doesn't really have an offensive move to hit it for super effective damage, but I think if you can remove all of its partnering Pokemon around it and then concentrate down on it at the end, it might make things slightly a little bit easier.
Well, there's the U-turn, just getting a good amount of damage into the Rillaboom. Remember, the Tailwind up is on Yuto's side, so Yuto wants to try and maximize the potential from these turns. It does give him the opportunity to now bring in from the back that Amoonguss once again. Rillaboom doing the exact same thing, going for a U-turn, pivoting off. We're going to see the Ogerpon rejoin the field.
Yeah, I think Yuto being very smart here, very composed, wants to keep that Intimidate in the back to bring in whenever the Ogerpon does reappear on the field, and doing it quite well here where it is going to get the attack boost, so it is threatening a lot more. We've seen the damage in the rain from the Ivy Cudgel, so we'll be in range for taking down that Tornadus the next turn. And when you do a play like this as well from Gabrielle, where you do a double pivot, and this is why these Fake Out combination with these two Pokemon is so useful here, where you can now bring in the Rillaboom, have active Fake Out this next turn, and either go for the Tornadus that has just protected. That's either going to have to, well, yeah, this is the thing. I think you go after the Tornadus here, but does that force a switch?
So you can maybe say
the Tornadus is so threatened here because it's an easy Fake Out. Ivy Cudgel going to take it down, or do you expect the switch, the Incineroar, to come in on the field and maybe Fake Out the Amoonguss and go for the Ivy Cudgel there? But then Yuto could kind of get around that by protecting the Amoonguss and get the Incineroar onto the field. So there's some big decisions to make for both of our players this turn, and whether or not you want to stay on the field fixed with these Pokemon here. If you're Gabrielle,
I guess that's fine. I guess that makes sense.
Position again, that is another question altogether.
Kind of.
I think as well you've got the Incineroar and the Ogerpon refusing to fall to the fate of Ophelia here in the Storm, constantly switching out, maybe allowing the Rillaboom to try and deal with that Tornadus before the Rain Dance can get set up again. We know that the Ivy Cudgels and the Ogerpon want to come through, want to connect onto that Amoonguss. Rillaboom goes for the Grassy Glide, but it's not enough. The priority, trying to get around the Tailwind, does not fell it. The Bleakwind Storm comes through, again, doesn't get the KOs here. They are resilient. They are here to try and get Gabrielle through. Ivy Cudgel will come through. It will connect down onto this Amoonguss, and it gets the KO! Gabrielle looks up to the skies. He knows that was what he needed to stay in this game.
Yeah, that's a huge critical hit. Enough in the rain to take down the Amoonguss there. And the Grassy Glide just missing. You thought if that picks up the knockout onto the Tornadus, it's easy street from here on out. But the Bleakwind Storm, the Rillaboom managing to just barely hang on. And things looking a little bit better for Gabrielle going into this next turn. The Grassy Glide is going to pressure and knock out onto the Tornadus. But you've got to contend with this fake out here. But you've got an easy play. You can spike your shield with your Ogerpon. You can switch in your own Incineroar here.
I mean,
Incineroar healthy enough at the back of Gabrielle where it can take a Bleakwind Storm and then pressure at that fake out the next turn.
This is exactly what we were talking about. Ogerpon not wanting to play by the rules that Tornadus has set, going for that Ivy Cudgel in the rain and getting that really critical knockout. Now both trainers in a position where Yuto is down to his last two remaining Pokemon. You do at least have the Incineroar, like you say, you have the potential to have that fake out, but is it going to be enough? The Tornadus is really on its last little clouds.
Yeah, it is, yeah, and we're going to have a big Bleakwind Storm coming out. Is the fake out going to be into the Ogerpon? If you don't go for that slot and then Gabrielle hasn't protected it, could be over a lot quicker than what we think here, but we're going to see Terastallization finally locked in from Yuto. Which target will be into? It is going to be into that Tornadus, and it will be into the Steel Terra typing.
Oh, we've seen this be dangerous before when one of the genies takes to the skies and embraces the Steel typing, puts itself into a position as Ogerpon goes for the spiky shield, just playing defensively, playing around the rain, maybe hoping that the Incineroar is able to get the job done. The fake out was indeed going down into the Ogerpon, so now Incineroar on Gabrielle's side is free to utilize an attack.
Yeah, and we're going to take a Bleakwind Storm. Purge Troubles, 100% accurate in the rain. It'll be interesting to see how much damage this does to the Incineroar. Will it be able to take two of these? Yeah, more comfortable enough, even though that Sharp Beak is on that, boosting the moves, but the rain has stopped. And this Terastallization not looking as strong in this situation against two fire types that are going to be hitting it for super effective damage. But the one thing that that Steel typing does do is probably give you enough legs.
There's no damage.
Gabrielle
Storm has managed to get the ball on.
I think it would have been in that last game. That is an option as well. And
the issue, however, I think was hang on. Wondering if maybe Porygon 2 or Ursaluna. This is a round.
One of these trades match. What will our players do? Will
the winning in for Top Cut.
Yeah, it is. And
well, this is a run back of game 2. This is the last game.
What we're going to is on Gabrielle.
Yep, straight away an adjustment in that ball position, wants to bring the Rillaboom in instead, making sure that Urshifu is not going to have to take the Intimidate, and Rillaboom now joins free of it as well. The grassy terrain as well, going to enable it to access that grassy glide to apply pressure to the Urshifu in the following turn. Looks like Yuto's also making an adaptation. Instead, it's going to be the Incineroar on his side to maybe Intimidate a little bit later on as Amoonguss joins the
that's huge though.
Oh my goodness, a shake of the head from Gabrielle Agati as the Urshifu finds its mark onto that Incineroar. The Incineroar is going to go down.
Yeah, that was a risky play from Gabrielle, going for the parting shot there, saying, okay, well, you might expect the fake out. Unfortunately, leaving the Incineroar in harm's way, and Yuto capitalizing on that from the get-go here. Now you've got your Rillaboom on the field. It is going to put a lot of pressure onto that the Urshifu here with the Grassy Glide that's active. You can get your Urshifu out as well, and that can kind of pivot out at once. It's got the Ice Spinner as well, but do you really want to get rid of the Grassy Glide when you know there's Ogerpon in the back that's going to really benefit from that? So the big thing and the hard thing now is going to be getting the Ogerpon onto the field in a position where it can function like it did in that game 2. Right now, you don't really want to switch it in the face of an Urshifu with that Life Orb that can really start throwing out those Surging Strikes that are so threatening. But the Rillaboom is in a position where, like we've said, it is going to threaten, but it's an easy switch right now to maybe the Incineroar to get that Intimidate onto the field, and you've got the support of that Amoonguss to Rage Powder any of those threatening water type attacks to get that seamless switch in.
We have to assume as well it is that Tornadus in the back for Yuto, and that could always come in, get that rain dance set up and help the Urshifu on the other side a little bit more. But it looks like Gabrielle is going to start already trying to apply some pressure into this game.
Okay.
Water, you should have to worry about being It is not going to be, as Urshifu tries its best to get damage out on the board. It goes down into its counterpart, but it is not going to be even nearly enough.
No, nowhere near enough. Unfortunately, just predicting a switch out there, not getting any joy. Once again, Yuto saying, I'm keeping this on the field. I feel comfortable where it is. I'm going to take advantage of this life orb when I've got the opportunity to. Close combat into the opposing Urshifu. Some valuable damage there, putting it in a position where it is not going to be getting as much value for Gabriel going forward.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a parting blow from the Intimidate that Incineroar set right at the beginning of the game, making sure that Urshifu was kept in the game. But of course, if the Urshifu on Yuto's side switches out, that Intimidate cannot be reset up because the Incineroar is gone. Yeah,
expecting probably the switch to the Incineroar there, so you can see exactly what Gabriel was trying to do. All out of that. Now it's the pressure off the field and into the opposing Urshifu.
Just go for the Rage Powder and redirect it, opening up the opportunity. Yes, in a way you can go for the... Instead, it's just going to go, but Yuto could easily try and protect around that. It is, not protecting, however. Instead, it's just going to go straight down and connect. The Urshifu will fall down to the Rillaboom, but Yuto now can bring in a Pokemon from the back, possibly even that Incineroar, and throw an Intimidate down against these special attackers. Amoonguss, where did that come from off left field? The Amoonguss showing that it's not just a supportive little Pokemon, it's able to deal with the big Pokemon too.
Yeah, Amoonguss showing why it's here and showing that it wants to take the Urshifu from Gabriel, though, as well as that you don't have the ability to remove that flying type weakness that the Ogerpon can quite easily come in. It threatens not only the Ogerpon, the Rillaboom, but that Urshifu as well. He lost Urshifu, with that instant automatic ability to set the Tailwind up. You surpass the Choice Scarf. So all to do for Gabriel here, and time is running out, ticking down every turn. Has to get everything right from here, everything on the line to take him through to this next stage, and Yuto is playing marvelously.
And the Urshifu on Gabriel's side has locked in the terrestrializations. Both Rillaboom and Ogerpon have to be able to get out of.
And that's the problem. I think Gabriel's got to keep that in the back of their mind as they progress in this game and not really overextend themselves unnecessarily, but at the same time, they need to start playing catch-up. We are going to see
showing that it can be an offensive pressure as
this going.
I love to see this from the Amoonguss. It's maybe showing that it can be an offensive pressure as well, so it's wanting to keep itself in the game, losing its fire-type weakness. The Woodhammer, however, comes down, does a respectable amount of damage, but Rillaboom obviously taking a little bit of recoil as the knock-off follows up. So Rillaboom now going to be exposed. It loses its Assault Vest, so potentially we could see Amoonguss getting a KO into the next couple of turns if it's able to find it.
From the
that's decent damage.
Not hit now, could see in the back.
That's not what Gabriel, the Woodhammer down, the Amoonguss
storm that avoid any damage gets set.
Oh, that's not what Gabriel wanted to see. The Amoonguss going for the protect, maybe trying to draw in these attacks. Ogerpon was going for the Woodhammer down into that slot, and if Gabriel has doubled up into it, then he has left his Pokemon vulnerable to have damage taken from this Incineroar. It is the double. Both Woodhammers coming through, trying to utilize that grassy terrain to get the KO, but instead are not getting any damage on the board. The knockoff comes through. Ogerpon at least does manage to hang on because you cannot knock that mask off.
Yeah, that is a huge survival here, so you can kind of have a repeat of that last turn here onto the Amoonguss and double time for that to extend with, although it won't be hitting as hard and not as threatening, but all the time you put all your concentration onto the Amoonguss for you to allow you a free switch in.
I mean, you chose
against the Incineroar on the opposing side, but while you've got the potential Rage Powder, it's impossible. Ivy Cudgel may be trying desperately to get a critical hit, but instead it's actually going to give Amoonguss more recovery, giving it the opportunity to eat up its Citrus Berry. The Woodhammer will come through from Rillaboom, but without the terrain in play, it's not going to be as powerful damage as Gabriel was hoping in that previous turn. And the U-turn, as you mentioned, Lee, can come through. It's not able to get the KO because it's gone into the Rillaboom and not the Ogerpon. The Intimidate
Tornadoes, it finally makes its way onto the field, followed up with a Sludge Bomb now from the Amoonguss. Back going to be able to set up that Tailwind, put itself ahead of the Urshifu. The Rain Dance is a bit of a double-edged sword, right? Because the terrestrialization on the Urshifu is going to boost those water-type attacks even further. Now, you've got a turn where you can utilize this Amoonguss to give you that free turn on your Tornado, so it doesn't take any damage. Tailwind's probably the most preferable thing to do here, and then just hope that your Bleak Wind Storms hit without the rain being active. If they do, they're going to be able to hit the Ogerpon for super effective damage. With the water terrestrialization, it's taken away that flying weakness, but the Urshifu pretty low health as it is.
Well, Amoonguss is angry. It's going for the Rage Powder as the Urshifu locks in with those surging strikes. It is going to come down onto the Amoonguss. It will be enough to get the knockout, particularly after this second hit. Doesn't even need the third one. But as you said, Lee, it opens up. You can assume it is going for that.
This one is going to take an Ivy Cudgel first. It will do. There's a chance of critical hit not landing here, and that Bleak Wind Storm chosen, but it has missed a target. Which one is it going to be? It's the Urshifu, so it's going to stick around. But that Ogerpon is gone. When Urshifu can threat it, that it'll be able to take this Urshifu.
Oh, he actually did it right.
It's probably more coming out Yeah, you can Bleak Wind Storm where you can tail and that knockoff. Just looking into
breaks. It's targeting down into this Tornadus, but now the question is key. Is knockoff, U-turn, or Flare Blitz going to be enough to get this Urshifu down? If not, Gabrielle is in a position to take it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's all going to come down to this knockoff. I think if this knockoff is enough, Lou, it will be the end of the game.
There we go, locking in his...
Congratulations to Yuta, who will be moving on in this tournament, continuing their road, hoping to be crowned the champion at the end of this event.
I'm a little out of breath there, Lee. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of back and forth throughout that set. I feel like Yuto constantly had so much offensive pressure with that Tornadus, but Gabrielle brought him right down to the wire in that, particularly that game 2 and that game 3.
I don't know how Yuto pulled that off. I don't know how he pulled that off. What does Yuto have to say here?
Oh,
wow.
A direct invitation.
まずは勝利おめでとうございます。普段オンラインの中で初めての IC だと思いますが、率直に今のお気持ちいかがですか？
本当に嬉しいです。まさかここまで来れるとは思っていなかったので、もう嬉しい気持ちでいっぱいです。
I'm very happy because I can't believe it. I can come here, he said.
And you've done such an amazing job as well. There were so many back and forths. It was Gabriel Agachi as well, such a well-known player. But you seem to have such a good way to sort of handle him with your team and strategies like Life Orb, Urshifu and such. But I wanted to ask you, how much practice have you put in with this team? Is this something that you've been playing for a long time, or is it new for this tournament in particular?
相手のガブリエル選手は有名な選手でずっとプレーしてきた選手だと思うんですけど、今回の使ったチームっていうのはずっと長く使われてきたパーティーを使ったのか、今回のために初めて使ったのか、いかがですか？
この大会に参加するって決まってからもう2ヶ月ほど同じ構築使ってて、そうですね、すごい練習してきました。
When he decided I joined EUIC, he practiced a lot for 2 months. So that で最後なんておっしゃいました？
ずっと練習してきました。
He had practiced very hard.
It definitely shows you were so comfortable with it, and there are so many back and forths, especially in the game 2. We saw Gabrielle go for the critical hit, force the game 3, but you did such a good job to be able to bring it back the way that you did. So I then just wanted to ask you, you're so many steps closer now, 2 more wins in order to get the direct invitation, but we want to make sure you get some rest as well.
人は家族だったり。
やはり仲間のみんなにはすごい練習一緒にしてもらったこともありますし、やっぱりここまで来れたのは仲間のおかげもあると思うので、感謝しています。
He appreciated his teammate, so his teammate practiced hard with him, so he appreciated him teammate too. His teammate.
Amazing stuff. And one final question, of course. It's the 30th Pokemon anniversary coming up. What is your favorite Pokemon and why?
ポケモンが30周年を迎えるんですけど、一番好きなポケモンとその理由を教えてください。
そうですね、ポリゴン2です。理由としては、そうソードシールドの頃からこう結構ずっと使っていたこともあるので。
So his favorite Pokemon is Porygon 2 because he used Porygon 2 from Sword and Shield. He used it for a long time.
I mean, it's one of the best Pokemons and for good reason as well. So, with that being said, thank you so much.
For the
I kind of want to see how
way that Frederick and his brother Nikolai seem good in the background, though, so Celia has to go with the dog.
I feel like Ogerpon, they're able to have the flame.
This guy has the same team. This guy has the same team. Is this his partner? Do we watch this one? I don't know if we watched this one. What do we have here? What do we have here?
Amongst the
Bro. Everyone has like the same 3 teams. This format kind of stinks, I'm not gonna lie. This is the same guy, right? But he's like the same.
Amongst the best.
Oh, these are the same people.
They're not unfamiliar.
This is Francesco again. Oh, Lord. Okay, we gotta watch this one. It's Francesco.
Beautiful arena they have concocted.
Yeah,
that's why it's like this.
To remove from the field quick.
Side. Now, this is a Pokemon we saw him utilize against Flavio Del Pidio, who did a fantastic amount of effort with that Eerie Impulses going down into Pokemon like the Raging Ball, a Pokemon
that maybe try this team out.
That might have evidence. So bringing it, we saw him bring it.
I'm I'm curious about Yuto's team. I don't know how you won with that team. There's just no damage. Anyway, well, this... Yeah, I don't know.
Against Giuseppe earlier on, and it really didn't pay off dividends. So, got to utilize some of those setup options. You've outlined it. The Gouging Fire has that Howl, can be really beneficial if you put it in the side of the field. Like the Dragonite or the Urshifu, they can hit extremely hard and break through the walls on the opposite side of the field.
But it looks like it's time to get into it, trainers. Masters Top 8 is kicking off here at the Pokemon European International Championships. You have got an Urshifu.
Okay.
Down there on the field with the Thunderous for Francesco Piopero, and it's the Chien-Pao and Rillaboom for Nicholas.
Yeah, so you've got that Chien-Pao on Nicholas' side of the field. It is putting instant pressure onto that Thunderous. A big Icicle Crash onto that Pokemon. Maybe enough, probably will be enough to take it down. So that's not something that Francesco wants to really contend with. Might want to switch out this turn, especially when you've got that Fake Out that covers.
Okay, but... Okay, dog. Like, this is the same shit. No... This is actually better, but Thunderous isn't like this.
Into the Thunderous with the Fake Out to slow it down this turn because of the Cobalt Cloak, but you can slow down that Urshifu for one turn that is threatening that Chien-Pao. So it's pretty free right now, isn't threatened by the Thunder Wave, and can offer some big damage. So all to do for Francesco to kind of reposition, as well as that the Urshifu. Not really something that you want to keep on the field in its current state because of the threat from the Grassy Glide and that Wood Hammer.
Well, Rillaboom having no choice but to lock the Fake Out into that Urshifu. As for its troubles, it is going to have to take that Thunder Wave coming through from the Thunderous, so it's going to have its speed lowered and the potential to get paralyzed in the following turn. Chien-Pao, however, free to go straight away for this Icicle Crash, and that is a solid one-hit KO. Thunderous is down and out early doors in this top 8. We know the Urshifu is going to have to flinch because it took that Fake Out. What a commanding opening turn here for Nicholas Khan.
Yeah, losing a piece like the Thunderous, it feels kind of bad because all you got in return was the Thunder Wave into the Rillaboom there. So it is going to have a chance every turn going forward. It's on the field of not being able to move, being fully paralyzed, which is really valuable. Anytime a Pokemon can't move, you're going to be able to capitalize on that. But now it does open the door for Francesco to bring in a fresh Pokemon pretty free. It's going to be able to do and offer some big damage in return, and that is that Chien-Pao. Now you're in that situation where you can go for that Icicle Crash and threaten the Rillaboom here. So that is something that Nicholas is going to have to contend with. But do you have something like the Incineroar on the back you could bring in? You could drop an Intimidate onto the field. The problem with doing that is that Francesco could maybe scout that out and go for a double up into that slot, knowing that there's no Protect there, where you can Icicle Crash and Surging Strike. So you cover bases with whatever comes in on that slot. Even if the Rillaboom stays in, you're going to remove it, and then the Surging Strikes will revert into the Chien-Pao.
Well, Chien-Pao on Nicholas' side wants to get out of there, doesn't want to face down against his counterpart across from the field. Instead, it's going to be the Urshifu joining the fray, so both of these Pokemon can now Intimidate down against each other. Urshifu on Francesco's side is just going to go straight away for this Detect, as Rillaboom was trying for that priority Grassy Glide. Critically, it did actually break through the paralysis, so a wise defensive play on Francesco's side as Chien-Pao goes for that Sacred Sword. That would have done a huge amount of damage, bringing the Chien-Pao down to its Focus Sash on Nicholas' side, but Urshifu able to take that much more reliably.
Yeah, that's a nice damage there, leaving the Rillaboom alone for a turn while you protect your Urshifu and take a turn where you can see if it attacks or not and see what reaction that Nicholas had to that board state. Now the Chen Pao in a position where it can still threaten the Rillaboom. It has to be a bit careful around the opposing Urshifu that Nicholas has brought onto the field because it is threatening with that super effective close combat damage. But you've got to remember that the Terastallization for both of our players is still in effect. So they could essentially Terastallize one of their Urshifus here to get rid of the weakness that's kind of threatening them right now. But we're seeing, because of that threat of the Icicle Crash, that Rillaboom is leaving the fray.
Yeah, Rillaboom not wanting to maybe utilize that Terra Fire that it's running to bypass some of the Ice-type attacks, considering the Urshifu could cover for that with something like the Surging Strikes. Bringing in the Incineroar is a much better position. You're also going to neutralize the pressure coming through from this Ice Spinner because you have thrown that Intimidate down against the physical attacker, even though Sword of Ruin is in play. Intimidate's a really nice way to try and counteract against this. Coming through also from Nicholas's side is going to be these Surging Strikes. That's obviously breaking the Focus Sash on the Chien Pao and trying to do work to get the knockout. It's not quite enough, but Chien Pao is incredibly vulnerable going into the next turn.
Yeah, really nice survival there, but it opens up the door for the close combat from the Urshifu and Francesco side, and it is enough with that sort of Ruin boost to take down the Urshifu. The critical hit there may have been important, especially because the Intimidate has just been dropped by that Incineroar from Nicholas' side, so be very close to picking up the knockout. But one thing is important, that Urshifu on Nicholas' side is no longer, so the threat there is gone, depending on what that last Pokemon in the back is for Francesco, which is still yet to be revealed.
And also on Nicholas's side, considering you switched in the Incineroar, you now have the utility to Fake Out.
Yeah, nice Fake Out, which is a good option to come in, be able to slow down, especially the Urshifu now, because it's so healthy. The Chen Pao really not a great position where it can threaten that Incineroar with the Sacred Sword if it is left unchecked. But you do have the option where it can threaten that Incineroar with the Sacred Sword if it is left unchecked. But you do have the option, if you are Nicholas, to maybe go for a Sucker Punch into that slot, and if you suspect a Sacred Sword there, you can get rid of it off the field, which might then open the door for Francesco. Say, I'm just going to switch something in here if I do suspect the Sucker Punch Fake Out combination in this turn.
If I'm Francesco, I mean, I don't know what moves he has. I wish I could see it. I guess even in the other game, he was on the other side too. I don't know what moves he has, but I mean, generally, I mean, we know what Fake Out's coming from Rillaboom. It's just a matter of like who. I would maybe even switch out Chien Pao here. Protect on Urshifu.
That's the thing, Chien Pao has a high chance of going down if it stays in this game without going for a protect. So Francesco wanting to keep it in play, maybe using it as a little bit of bait to draw in Nicholas's attacks, as the Fake Out does not fall for that trick. It goes down into that Urshifu instead, so Francesco going to be unable to go for any attacks on this turn, but it also looks a little bit here as if Nicholas is unable to get the damage on that Chien Pao too. You do manage to get the speed drop thanks to the Icy Wind onto the Urshifu. That could be very important going into the next couple of turns.
Yeah, definitely important. I think if you stack another one, it probably puts the Incineroar in a position where it's a little bit further ahead, but I think the big thing that Nicholas needs to do now is remove Francesco's Chen Pao, because as soon as that falls, then the Rillaboom has a much easier time of what's on the field in front of them, because now there is no Ice Strike going forward and there's no chance of the Ice Spinner coming out to remove your grassy terrain that you can lean into a little bit more. So got to be careful about which direction you go, but it looks like there might be a Terastallization here to get around a potential threat of the close combat that's so prevalent now from the Urshifu and that Chen Pao that has access to that Sacred Sword.
That's the thing, Nicholas's Chien Pao has the Focus Sash nicely intact, so it's going to want to keep that in the game. Instead, it's going to be embracing its Ghost typing, turning its eyes, all shades of Elizabeth Taylor here, and making sure that it's going to be immune to a potential close combat coming through. It does leave you more vulnerable, though, to the Sucker Punch, and that's exactly what Francesco has gone for here. Chien Pao able to take it, is going to try and retaliate with the Icicle Crash, but Urshifu dodges nimbly out of the way. Incineroar's like, I've got your back, I'm going for the Flare Blitz, but I can't carry through the KO. So now this Urshifu on Francesco's side can go for these Surging Strikes, does get the knockout on the Chien Pao. Oh, unfortunately for Nicholas, this has not paid off.
Yeah, the Icicle Crash missing there was pretty huge and impactful, where now the Urshifu, the slowest thing on the field after that Icy Wind the previous turn, is able to get that final attack off and close the Chen Pao's chapter in this game one. Now the Rillaboom, the Incineroar, the partnering Fake Out buddies are all that's left for Nicholas. Can they turn this round? Both the Urshifu and the Chen Pao are in a pretty precarious position where a Grassy Glide is going to pick up either of them. Yeah, and the Grassy Train's still in effect, and you also have an Incineroar that does put on a lot of pressure to the Chen Pao. The Urshifu is kind of checked by the Grassy Glide here, but there is that paralysis, there is that chance that it might not move, and that might pay dividends from the start of the game where it looked like you sacrificed your Thunderous for that. That could pay off here in a big way.
Francesco playing defensively with that Chien Pao, going for the protect, and the Urshifu follows up just in suit, wanting to either bypass the fake out potential that Rillaboom has, or to see where he wants to target down the Grassy Glide. This is information now into the mindset of Nicholas and which Pokemon he sees more as the threat. Incineroar was going for the knockoffs. They were trying to cover each other's angles here. Maybe the knockoff for the more potential switch if you wanted to reset the speed on that Urshifu by switching out for the fourth and as yet unrevealed Pokemon on Francesco's side.
Yeah, and the one thing that Francesco has the advantage of is the numbers. They still have a Pokemon that's not been revealed in the back, so they do have the ability to maybe pick which one of these Pokemon on their side they prioritize more than the other and say, okay, I'm switching you out, I need to keep you while I try and better this situation, and then leverage whatever Pokemons are left on the field to try and get that last bit of damage off before they come back with their final two Pokemon.
Exactly, and towards the end game of this game one, it's going to be critical how the speeds are interacting, and I think that's important for the Urshifu to switch off. It took the Icy Wind a little bit earlier on, revealing the Dragonite. We've got a Dragonite side by side with the Chien Pao, and on occasion this can spell disaster. Chien Pao gets that Sucker Punch into the Rillaboom, does a sizable amount of damage, but Rillaboom breaks free once again and is able to get the KO with the Grassy Glide. So Chien Pao no longer able to use the Sword of Ruin to support out the potential of this Dragonite, considering as well that Incineroar can redirect its attack into the Dragonite. Not only is Dragonite going to lose its loaded dice, but it's also going to have a
Rillaboom. Now, it threatens the Incineroar.
This is still a little scary.
But itself, it is threatened very heavily by a Grassy Glide. It's definitely 100% in range of a Grassy Glide, hitting into that and taking it down. And then it becomes the Incineroar or the Rillaboom against the Dragonite. Does the Dragonite now, it's not got its loaded dice item, have enough in the tank to be able to take two of these big Pokemon down from Nicholas' side? This is going to come right down to the wire.
You also run the risk with those scale shots that they're not going to be able to connect as convincingly as they would have with the loaded dice on board. Dragonite going for the protect and Urshifu going for the detect. So again, looks a little bit like Francesco is trying to burn through these turns of grassy terrain so that the priority Grassy Glide is not going to be in play. Incineroar going for the parting shot, obviously going straight into a protect. That's not going to happen here. And Rillaboom we saw was actually paralyzed, so no turns happening at all in play right now.
Yeah, and you can see Francesco, like you quite rightly said, wants to try and stall out these grassy terrain turns so that Grassy Glide is no longer a priority move, making that Urshifu feel that little bit safer in a position where it can clear the field of that Incineroar at least, because once that falls, Dragonite has a much easier time dealing with the Rillaboom. But we are seeing finally a Terastallization come out, saved right till the last minute here from Francesco, and on to that Urshifu. What a perfect Terastallization it is in this endgame.
You don't want to have to rely on a double protect or a paralysis coming through, so you have to accept that, hey, Grassy Glide might connect, but at least I have this Terra Steel now. There is going to be no priority. Incineroar instead is going to have to face the wrath of these surging strikes because the Urshifu has that speed advantage and is going to be able to get the knockout. It's now really down to the Dragonite if it can remove this Rillaboom from play, or if the Rillaboom can even break through. It's paralyzed, and we did get the insight. Nicholas, I believe, was going for Woodhammer here to try and get the additional bit of oomph and damage to get rid of that Urshifu if it was able to connect.
Yeah, I think the fact that Francesco's preserved this as 2 high horsepower like you'd normally see doesn't give it a way to hit the Urshifu for super international.
Being up.
Prioritize a double here. Nicholas game. That's it.
Mount onto the turns in this match.
You thought we take Vidal one and really came in handy for Francesco to be able to close things up.
Hey, I always say Gouging Fire looks ready to party and possibly ready to celebrate. Francesco can win this game and get into top 4, but first of all, it paired up with this Urshifu. Have to get through the formidable duo on Nicholas's side.
Seeing that booster energy activate on the Gouging Fire will boost its speed, so it gets a little bit of a speed advantage. It's going to put it ahead of that Chen Pao, which makes it an instant threat, especially when you combine it with the Urshifu that also has priority moves. But, and next to that Chen Pao, you've got the Rillaboom. It is going to be able to disrupt one of these 2 Pokemon, Francesco's side, with the Fake Out for at least this next turn, where you prioritize probably the Gouging Fire, but then you leave the Urshifu kind of open, and you don't want to allow that Pokemon to get any free attack off into the Chen Pao. Why we're seeing it switch out. A great position for the Incineroar to come in. If you can check maybe the Urshifu, or if you want to check the Gouging Fire, you could bring in that Raging Bolt.
Yeah, Rillaboom had a difficult choice on its hands there, but it decided to target down that Gouging Fire, leaving the Urshifu free to go for the Surging Strikes. But a Pokemon that is absolutely perfect to come in and eat up this ferocious 3x critical hit attack is the Raging Bolt, a Pokemon that we have seen Nicholas use to great success. So it's now in a position where it wants to maybe try and get something like a Calm Mind Up, or even apply pressure with that Dragon Pulse onto the opposing Gouging Fire.
Yeah, we had similar situation earlier when we were able to showcase Francesco, where against the Raging Bolt, they had a lot of difficulty against that the Raging Bolt because of that Dragon Pulse and not having the preferable switches in the back, because if Dragonite's in the back, well, you can't bring that in for the Gouging Fire. Also, switching Gouging Fire out here, you kind of lose that booster energy, so you preferably not want to do that, especially when there is a Rillaboom on the field. It is threatening your Urshifu right now. The Raging Bolt's threatening your Urshifu right now. You might want to preserve your Terastallization, switch that out.
There's too much going on, because you can Thunderclap the Urshifu, you can Dragon
take advantage of the Gouging Fire, and maybe use Terastallization on that, which could then put on some pressure to the Rillaboom, remove that from the field, or even go for a Break and Swipe, which gives you that super effective damage into the Raging Bolt, although it's not threatening a knockout.
Well, once again, we're going to get all beautiful and bejeweled up there on the stage here at the International Championships. Urshifu is going to be embracing its inner Steel-type, terrestrializing into that form. Rillaboom going for the Grassy Glide, once again not finding it super effective mark because of that defensive terror, as the Gouging Fire adds insult to injury by going for the Howl. This is not only going to boost up its own attack stat, but also is going to help out that Urshifu on the other side.
Wow, a big close combat, +1 into the Raging Bolt. Not quite enough. The Raging Bolt showing why it's good, so good defensively, able to shrug that off, but with minimal health left.
Raging Bolt is able to retaliate with some really good damage onto that opposing Gouging Fire, but no KOs to be seen here. I feel like on Nicholas's side, if you have that Incineroar in the back, maybe to get an Intimidate down, this could be the time to bring it out.
Yeah, it's a good time to bring it in, because then it applies a little bit more of a threat to that Urshifu, even though it's a really difficult Pokemon to sit in front of, because you are going to be constantly threatened with those Surging Strikes, and as long as this Gouging Fire is on the field, it's going to be able to go for those Howls. It can get another one off here, put that Urshifu to +2. You need to try and keep it in check, and one way to do that is Incineroar. You could maybe swap the Rillaboom out now and bring the Incineroar in that slot, because it's unlikely you see a Surging Strikes there, but there is a chance that Close Combat could go into that slot, so you've got to be very careful. Francesco can capitalize from the angle and the board position that they've got right now, but don't put it past Nicholas to have something in their back pocket where they can pull and turn things around.
Every single second counting down here. Nicholas wants to make sure that he does not make a single mistake with the top 4 on the line. Rillaboom able to go through with that Grassy Glide, but not doing too much damage as the Thunderclap follows up to try and get the knockout, but both priority moves are not able to get the job done, as Heat Crash is free to come through and connect into the Rillaboom. Gets a solid one-hit KO. The Assault Vest not going to be able to help it in the face of a physical attacker.
Yeah, huge attack and play from Francesco to get that Heat Crash, and now we get the Surging Strikes. Not very effective, but it is boosted. It is going to be hitting for a lot harder, and it might be enough to take down this Raging Bolt, and a clean sweep of Nicholas's 2 Pokemon lead in this game.
Ding, ding, ding. That's a double knockout coming through on Francesco's side, being able to get a 4-2 Pokemon advantage over Nicholas in this game too.
Yeah, and now we know the Chien-Pao's ready and waiting to come in. It looks like the Incineroar is the other Pokemon here. The problem that Nicholas is going to have is that the Gouging Fire still has that speed boost, so it is going to be naturally outspeeding that Chien-Pao. All you need to do is get through this turn where the Fake Out is active, which you can do that. You can double protect here and then just burn that Fake Out, and then you're going to be in that position where you can threaten the Chien-Pao, you can hopefully break the sash. You could go for maybe the Aqua Jet here, and then the Heat Crash.
That could
double
come
up
through.
into it, get rid of that, and then you've got 3 Pokemon to deal with the Incineroar.
I mean, you're right. It's very easy to go for that double protect on Francesco's side. That's exactly what he's done, because you cannot switch out that intimidating Incineroar anymore on Nicholas's side. So you know that that Fake Out is no more in this game. Now with that speed advantage, you know, unless Nicholas wants to really try for a double protect on the Chien-Pao and allow Incineroar to try and clean up against the Gouging Fire, it's going to be very difficult for him to navigate past Gouging Fire itself.
Yeah, that is one option. That's a route that you could go. Maybe Sucker Punch is enough to take down the Gouging Fire as well from the Chien-Pao. So that is another angle where you could prevent the Heat Crash and preserve your Chien-Pao for at least one more turn. But potential Ghost type.
Sucker Punch Punch, but not into the Gouging Fire. Instead, looking down at the opposing Terrestrialization Pokemon side, but the Gouging Fire able to go for that Heat Crash. It will find its mark down on the Chien-Pao, not going to be able to take it into that yellow zone, so we know it's going to be able to hang on to a Null to stay.
Will slot support to get Francesco
side, and again, for once, Dragonite's been able to come in with its multi-scale intact, so it's going to be very difficult to get through already, considering there's only 2 Pokemon remaining. At least you have the Chien-Pao with a very powerful Icicle Crash.
You do, and that is an option to try and remove it, but through the multi-scale, it's not going to be enough to remove it straight away. It's going to be able to take at least one of these. You do have the chance to flinch, though, so that is an option that allows you the room then to follow up with another one the next turn to really need to prioritize.
Extreme Speed comes through, going to do
that alone does put you susceptible for another Howl to come out.
Extreme Speed comes through, going to do a sizable amount to the Incineroar as Breaking Swipe comes across the battlefield, chipping away at both Pokemon and critically lowering their attacks. Their offensive pressure, if they're able to connect these attacks, are not going to be able to be as monumental. I like, however, what Nicholas is doing here, identifying, as you said, that Dragonite is not going to go down to 1 Icicle Crash, so you might as well find a way to chip any multi-scale here with that Icy Wind, as well as lowering the speed. That's going to neutralize the Gouging Fire back down to normal and just weaken that Dragonite up a little bit, but it has priority.
Yeah, that Icy Wind actually really pivotal here. It doesn't rely on the fact of the attack stat on the Chien-Pao at all, and it can reset the speed boost that that Gouging Fire's got. Now, an Extreme Speed comes out, and it's going to be enough to pick up the Incineroar, so the Chien-Pao all on its lonesome against the remaining Pokemon on Francesco's side.
Let's have a little look at how much this Icy Wind does. However, you just need a little bit of chip for the Gouging Fire, and Dragonite 4 times super effective. Oh my goodness, underestimating the power of Icy Wind. Chien-Pao, you get to roar in success, you're back in the game. But what is the last Pokemon on Francesco's side?
Yeah, it all comes down to what this is. Is it the Rillaboom? Could it be that Rillaboom?
It's Chien-Pao.
Oh, it's Chien-Pao versus Chien-Pao. So here we go, full health Chien-Pao. The problem is that Francesco's has got its Focus Sash.
No.
There is going to be Sucker Punch as well that it can take advantage of. And now you're a Ghost Terror type, then it is going to be susceptible to super effective damage.
It's looking difficult, but there is an opportunity here. You're going for the Protect as the opposing Chien-Pao goes for the Ice Spinner. And this is the thing, though, Ice Spinner doesn't have the same shaky accuracy Icicle Crash does.
No, it doesn't, and that's the one thing you would say. It's taken enough damage so far for that Ice Spinner to do enough. And here we go, there's a Sucker Punch into Francesco's Chien-Pao, and the Sucker Punch coming out in return, but failing because it was superseded by Nicholas's, so outspeeding it, meaning that the Sucker Punch on Francesco's side did fail. How much longer can we go for this? Because I feel like the Ice Spinner just is going to be enough. We haven't got that resistance. It is a Ghost type, so it takes neutral damage, probably enough, but can Nicholas find a way to win this match?
Well, the Sucker Punch comes through, but you can see it's doing minimal damage. All it's going to take is this Ice Spinner coming down into the now Ghost Chien-Pao to get the KO, meaning Francesco Pio Pero is advancing into top 4 here at EUIC.
Francesco win on the
Absolutely incredible. What a way to progress in this tournament, even deeper to the very end.
It's going to see pieces.
Quick look at here.
That was actually really good. That was really good.
Weekend my opponent, because they're not so familiar with these Pokemon.
In losing a central piece, as long as you're sort of guaranteeing your mid to end game. And how were you feeling going into that? Were you anticipating a lead switch up from Nicholas, or just the same?
So how the game 1 went down was that I knew that I had like no backups. I had no switch-ins, and I would have gone like the whole game was gonna be uphill. And against a great player like Nicholas, you can really afford that. So what happened was basically I had to rely on some odds and roll them the right way, still making all the right calls, because that alone wouldn't have been enough. So with a little bit of luck and I kept it cool, played my best, and won the game 1. So when it came to game 2, Nicholas was pretty sure that applying the same plan would have worked, because without the RNG that he got, that I got in my favor in game 1, he would have won, right? So let's just go for the same plan. I'm gonna beat him. That was not what happened, because I adapted to his leading. What he did was also, I think, part of the fact that me and Pado both went on stream against many balanced teams, and so you could see how we approached it. But what happens if I approach the balanced player? And that's what I did, and Urshifu with Gouging Fire lead, which is something that rarely happens. The Gouging Fire puts me in an awesome spot against Chien-Pao and the Rillaboom, and I didn't bring the Gouging Fire game 1, so it put me in the lead from the beginning. I went for a risky playing game in turn 1. He tried to cover for all the options, but then with the Terra Steel and all the bulk on the Urshifu, I knew my calcs perfectly, and that with the advantage that I got on the leading made the difference, and I just had to play it correctly from that point and secure me the win.
And that's exactly what you did, as we saw a very tantalizing close end of game 2. There are a couple of mind games between the GM powers, but the fact that, like you said, you've got the focus sash intact, you just need to make sure that you position yourself to just pick up the KOs. Sucker punches, they're probably not going to be able to do as much. But then again, we are here. You were here last season. You got top 16, Francesco. You've not only
redeemed himself.
beaten that record once, you've done it twice. You are now in the top 4, which must feel so amazing. But I did want to say, do you have any shout-outs at the moment that you would like to give? Because we've got this amazing crowd giving you so much support. And do you want to give any love back on Valentine's Day, of which it is?
So, about the shout-out, I want to shout out all the people here, the crowd, watching me and supporting me. They've been a crucial part of my performance today because they kept my hype up and kept me going, supported me, water, food, and like a whole team of people.
Bracket somewhere. Okay, we're done for that.
I see. So we had a date today when we played on the side stream, and that was our official Valentine's Day, and it's recorded on the YouTube channel, so our kids will watch in the future.
Oh my god.
You heard it here first.
Okay. Is there a bracket? Okay, no.
Trying to find a way in. 5 more seconds. 2, 1.
Know that I this is the
question of if you for our top cut.
Do you watch one more Francesco match? So I think he has the team that I kind of want to play. Ancient Red Panda. Yes. Okay. Okay. I don't know. Where that is. I don't know where that is. I don't think it's this one. Okay, this is the Chua match. Whoever wins this gets to play
investment.
Against...
Dragon Pulse, it looks like it should be able to do one more hit and then be able to get that knockout, but all the while, this Raging Bolt is continuing to just...
Okay, Chua wins.
On timer!
Yeah, Francesco's good.
Of all things, an advance here over Frederick Hoy-Nielsen into the top 4.
What
wow.
a crazy end of that game.
Crazy.
Even though it did come down to the final couple of seconds, Paul Chua, your 2023 Europe International Champion, might be able to get another.
Zachary doing all the right things to progress into the last section of this tournament. Here we go with the knockoff from the
Red Drago with Roberto Parente, because he is
offensive piece, your skill expression in terms of positioning games that you end up playing. But Eric's take is a little bit different. It is going to have a trick room component added to it, so maybe that's going to be something that ends up playing a role here. But honestly, I'm just so excited to be able to feature these two.
As well as that Raging Bolt that can apply so much pressure if the Calm Minds get rolling.
Yeah, Balance Master is Paul Chua's middle. Fake out that it kind of really is plagued black, and then you've got that Ogre on the Hearth Flame. It has got the sword stance. You can mitigate.
I want to see him play against this.
It is on matches so far.
One on the other, I think, is going to be the key.
Literally 4. It's 4 Raging Bolt. Look at it. Ting Lu, Gouging Fire, Xianpao, and Dragonite. Like, it's 4.
Being able to use that gangster press.
Effective that way of just ignoring that fake out support. So even that's
not going for these trainers. They're battling it out to get into Championship Sunday. We've got the Raging Bolt and the Incineroar out on the field for Paul Chua. Francesco Piopero going for that Disruptive Thunder.
We literally have seen this before. Bro, it's the same game. Francesco, you have to win this. It's the same. You've done this before.
Because then you pressure that as well. So I think maybe option.
You've done
with
this
that
3
Urshifu
times
is going to have
already.
to take the Intimidate from the Incineroar and the Urshifu on Paul Chua's side.
Yeah, now you would say that the Thunderous in a great.
I fucked up.
Raging Bolt there, and that doesn't pivot one for Paul. It's pivot up for these trainers. They're battling it out to get into Championship Sunday. We've got the Raging Bolt and the Incineroar out on the field for Paul Chua. Francesco Piopero going for that Disruptive Thunderous, supported by the Urshifu.
Yeah, well, it's in a nice position, the Thunderous. Like we talked about, that Eerie Impulse, it can come straight out onto the Raging Bolt and take it down to -2.
So what he did before was Eerie Impulse on the Thunder, on the Raging Bolt, I mean. And then he switched out Urshifu for Dragonite, and Dragonite just took a Dragon Pulse. What I recommend here is that a fake out was going to Urshifu. Actually, it probably could even go to Thunderous. But the
Urshifu has to be a little bit careful, going to be susceptible to that fake out, slow down this turn, flinch, and then it is susceptible to those Thunderclaps as well. Has to be careful around those. Might give Paul the opportunity to go for a Combine, but do you want to just value maybe the Raging Bolt switching out here, positioning a little bit better, dealing damage onto that Thunderous, but the Incineroar has to take its time going after that Urshifu. If it leaves it unchecked here, it could be detrimental to Paul, and you don't want to lose a key piece of your team early on.
One of the Pokemon you've got to find a way through is that Thunderous, and Paul just making an adaptation straight out of the blocks here. Going to switch out that intimidating Incineroar and bringing the Rillaboom into the fray. You're going to then still have the fake up pressure onto that Urshifu onto the next turn, as Thunderous does what it does best, going for that Eerie Impulse and going to be lowering the special attack of that Raging Bolt by 2 stages, meaning it's going to be forced to have to go for Carmines if it wants to get that back up, and the damage it's going to be able to deal with Thunder Pulse is going to be severely weakened. Fantastic switching, however, by Paul. It's going to be able to eat up all of these Surging Strikes with that Grass-type Rillaboom.
Yeah, and it preserves that Incineroar for later on in this match. I think one thing you would identify on Francesco's side of the field is the fact that a lot of the attackers are physical, so that Intimidate really crucial. You can see how important that Eerie Impulse was to just debuff the Raging Bolt. That Dragon Pulse brushed aside by the Thunderous and sitting in a pretty comfortable position, not really threatened by the Rillaboom and not really threatened so much by that Raging Bolt anymore. And the Thunderous free to go for another Eerie Impulse into the Raging Bolt if they want, just slowing things down and letting the Urshifu have a little bit of breathing room, but not because of that switch from the Rillaboom that now pressures with the Grassy Glide, Wood Hammer, and that is something that Francesco has to react to. Do they go for that Terra Steel that gets rid of that grass typing? That could be an option and get a big close combat in return.
Yeah, and Thunderous floating really free right now, doesn't worry about anything the Rillaboom can throw its way, and if it keeps going for those Eerie Impulses, it really does not have to contend with the Raging Bolt either. An adaptation, however, Francesco bringing in this Gouging Fire. It's going to be able to use his Protosynthesis thanks to his booster energy to get a speed boost, and we saw how critical that was in his top 8 game. Thunderous goes for that Thunder Wave, however, says, I think I've put the Raging Bolt in check. Time to deal with you, Rillaboom. It's now paralyzed, it's going to be slow, and critically maybe unable to move if it does get paralyzed, but Paul is able to at least find its mark, going for that Dragon Pulse, catching the Dragon Pokemon on the switch-in, with Rillaboom following up with the Wood Hammer. It's not going to be able to get it in range of a KO, but at least the targeting does mean that that Gouging Fire has not come in safely at all.
Yeah, I think a really nice catch there from Paul, because the one thing I was thinking was maybe you just keep going after the Thunderous. It hasn't got a way to recover any lost health, so you carry on going for that Dragon Pulse into the Thunderous, but smartly picking the other slot that has just protected, that needs to be switched out because of the pressure there. So maybe catching one of those dragons on the switch-in, exactly doing that, and that makes life a little bit more difficult for this Gouging Fire. Now it's on the field, does have the ability to put a bit more pressure onto that Rillaboom though, and it knows it's quite safe with the Eerie Impulse support, so that can lower the special attack of the Raging Bolt even further and mean that those Dragon Pulses aren't as threatening going forward. It also has the Terra Fairy type as well, so it can have an immunity to that. It does put itself a bit more in harm's way of the Rillaboom, but it does threaten with a big Heat Crash.
Yeah, I think Rillaboom heard that heat crash Lee and is deciding to get out of there. It does give Paul the opportunity to then once again bring this Incineroar back into the fray. The Intimidate going to really pay off against that gouging fire, stopping it from being as offensively pressuring as it was previously, as well as having that fake out to go onto it in the next turn. Considering it did just go for the protect, the fake out is looking very nice going into the next turn here. Eerie Impulse is going to connect down. This is now a -4 Raging Bolt, so the Dragon Pulses are really going to be doing minimal damage. I feel like the gouging fire isn't going to need to necessarily utilize its Terrestrialization either, because it's not going to be doing too much damage.
No, not at all. And I think now in a position where probably the next turn it can really go for a Howl. And I think that Paul is almost at the point where they probably want to switch out that Raging Ball, just reset those drops and get maybe the Rillaboom onto the field. But if Francesco kind of suspects that switch, could go for a heat crash into that slot. It is -1, of course, as well, so that Intimidate paying dividends, and it is going to be susceptible to that fake out the next turn, but do you risk it here? Do you just keep it on the field? You want to keep that booster, speed, energy, that boost that you've got intact. You don't really want to give that up for free, especially because you could maybe suspect a Fluttermane lurking in the back, and you want to keep that speed intact as best as possible going forward. But Thunderous now going to be switching out.
Yeah, Thunderous has kind of done its job offensively. It's only got Wild Bolt Storm, and neither of the Pokemon here are really going to worry about that. Let's get some offensive pressure back on the board with the Urshifu. Howl, however, comes through. This is perfect for the Urshifu switch in. It comes in unintimidated and gets a +1 attack to boost. Dragon Pulse will try and deal with this gouging fire, but thanks to the -4 from the Eerie Impulse, it's going to be doing negligible damage. Parting Shot, however, beautifully targeted because now Urshifu right back down to neutral.
Yeah, it's a really nice parting shot and use of that Incineroar. Keeps that Intimidate in the back, fresh to come back in. Take these Pokemon back down to -1 after the Howl. So keeping that in check, and now you've got the Rillaboom to come back onto the field, and now the Thunderous is gone, that Cover Cloak has gone with it, your Fake Out becomes active. Now the Raging Bolt still in that really awkward spot where it's -4 special attack, it's not hitting hard, you can see how much it's struggling to get that super effective Dragon type attack into the gouging fire. It's pretty safe in front of it at the moment, so you want to get that off the field, you want to reset that, maybe get Incineroar back onto the field, and it's unlikely that you see a Surging Strike into a Raging Bolt most of the time because of the Dragon type in there. It's going to resist those Water types, so Incineroar could be quite safe to bring in here, and it gives you that fake out support once again to readjust the board maybe the next turn, switch the Rillaboom out, bring that Raging Bolt back into play.
Yeah, the other Pokemon seem to be dancing around each other, leaving Raging Bolt in the corner by itself, but it's going to switch out, reset all of those Eerie Impulse drops, and can come back in to stop applying pressure later on. It is going to be a Protect coming down on the gouging fire. Paul has the utility to have brought in this Urshifu, but is it going to be able to get in safely? Yes, a sigh of relief for Paul Chewer there. He's got the Urshifu in, it's got its Focus Sash intact thanks to the passive play on Francesco's side.
Yeah, that's a really nice play to get the Urshifu onto the field now, and you know, just to burn through that fake out threat that was there, just to make sure that your Pokemon don't take any unnecessary risks at this stage of the battle. Everything matters at this point, everything on the line, remember, for these trainers. Now the Urshifu on the field for Paul, it does put a bit more pressure on that gouging fire. It is hitting for neutral, but it's so low health at the minute that it can, well, it will probably go down to Surging Strikes, and then with that Rillaboom in a position where it probably wants to switch out, so you've got that Grassy Terrain to bring back in and drop another Intimidate onto the field. It will be useful to do that, and you could even go for a close combat into the opposing Urshifu if you fancy just getting some big damage onto the field.
Exactly, and as well, that Rillaboom can apply pressure to the Urshifu with something like the Wood Hammer, but considering the terrain has gone, what it really wants to utilize is the priority Grassy Glide to be able to get around that gouging fire. Thanks to its speed boost it got earlier, it is going to be the fastest thing on the field. It can go for another Howl here, boost up the attack of that Urshifu, but it's the Urshifu on Paul's side that's first to blink. It's going to be able to connect 1, 2, and 3 critical hits with the Surging Strikes to get rid of this gouging fire. Rillaboom can breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah, definitely can. It hasn't got the boost of the Grassy Terrain to power up those grass type attacks now, but before it is able to attack, if it is able to attack, it's going to have to contend with maybe a close combat into that slot from this +1 Urshifu, but not a switch here. Paul standing strong with the Rillaboom. These Surging Strikes coming out, going to be resisted. The Rillaboom in a prime position to do some big damage in return to this Urshifu on Francesco's side.
I'm not sure if I would have preferred to see a close combat coming through there on that Urshifu, just trying to get more damage down, because the Wood Hammer breaks through the paralysis, takes down that Urshifu in a very clean one-hit KO. That's exactly what Paul Chewer needed here to get the double knockout in this turn.
Yeah, one fell swoop taking down 2 big pieces of Francesco's team, and it looks very, very difficult to make any sort of comeback now, especially when you look at that Raging Ball. It's in the back, it's full health, and you've also got the Urshifu sitting pretty happy at the minute as well. Ting Lu, one of those remaining Pokemon for Francesco though that can come in. Is it going to be able to do it, and got enough in the tank to be able to pull this back for Francesco though?
I mean, one option Tinglu does have is that Earthquake, and considering its partner Pokemon's flying up in the air, you don't have to worry about giving side partner damage. The grassy terrain is currently not in effect. That would be dilapidating some of that damage in play. Obviously, if Incineroar stitches in, the Intimidate is going to be a little bit difficult, but Incineroar still just doesn't want to switch into an Earthquake.
No, and you've got that kind of...
oh, and it's got Clear Amulet anyway.
Yeah, you've got the Wild Bolt Storm and the Earthquake, so you've got a kind of Disc-Quake kind of combination
I like
which
that.
is like the spread damage across the board, which makes life difficult. The Urshifu is not going to want to sit in front of those attacks because that combination could be enough to pick it up. The Rillaboom solo health at the minute, that will probably go down to that combination. And like you've said as well, the Incineroar comes in, it's not really going to come in on an Earthquake either. Even though it is going to be able to drop an Intimidate onto the board, it's still going to take a good, respectable chunk of damage.
Yeah, and that Intimidate's null and void anyway, thanks to the Clear Amulet, so Tinglu's going to sit really nicely on the field here. But Incineroar has joined the frame, maybe trying to think, hey, if Earthquake's not coming my way, I've got that Fake Out to utilize in the next turn. Tinglu, however, is just going to go straight into its terrestrialized form. It's going to be taking on that poison typing.
Yeah, banking that for this late game is a really, really clever move because now you don't have to worry about that fighting weakness or the water weakness. Now, the Surging Strike's coming out into that Thunderous. Is it going to be able to survive? It's going to be very close on this third hit. And it does manage to just survive, allowing the Thunderous to get one more attack off.
And it is going to be able to connect that Wild Bolt Storm. Does a good amount of damage to the opposing Urshifu, but it is going to stay in the game as Tinglu goes for that Earthquake. You already said, Lee, it can go for the Wild Bolt Earthquake combination, and it will fell the Urshifu. But look actually how well that Incineroar was able to take that damage. You almost feel like Tinglu needs its partner Howl from the Gouging Fire that's already gone down in order to really get its damage rolling.
Yeah, that would definitely help in this situation. And, you know, the Thunderous now in this spot where, okay, well, it can't be faked out, but the fake out can still have the priority and just get rid of the Thunderous with that remaining damage. It doesn't matter about stopping the Thunderous in its tracks. The fake out damage is still going to mount up here. And now you've got the grassy terrain in play as well. That Earthquake not going to be as effective. So Tinglu going to have to rely on the remaining options. It's got the Throat Chop, the Terra Blast. Yeah, again. Then you can extend, and then if you can cycle in the Incineroar over and over again, then you can drop that Intimidate again and again, making it weaker and weaker and giving you an easier route to success.
Do you know what? I really like that play actually by Paul. You've got two Pokemon on the field that can utilize that Fake Out, and you can just go into both the Pokemon there. That's not something you see every day.
Not something you see every day, and a really good use of it right here, right now. Tracks left, come in, fourth, you an Intimidate, Tinglu, going, cycling. Back on the field, you've got that Fake Out again, and then you can drop an Intimidate and just keep going, cycling until that Raging Bolt.
Yeah,
really well at the key moments. Francesco getting caught with a switch in from a drag in that position where the Surging Strikes was not there to best.
Francesco damage between
Francesco, Tinglu, Terra Blast that you led.
And the Urshifu out again. Francesco paired up with that Urshifu that's going to have to take the Intimidate from the Incineroar and the Urshifu on Paul Chua's side.
Yeah, now you would say that the Thunderous in a great position to get one of those big electric type attacks. Slower. One thing that Paul really does. Urshifu has to be careful. It doesn't be the top attack off, but it is going to be slower than the Urshifu. The Urshifu has to be careful. It doesn't be the target of a Thunder Wave, though. That's the one thing that Paul really doesn't want to happen. But if you can get the Rillaboom in here, you have that Fake Out the next turn, you potentially have a way to pressure the opposing Urshifu and try and angle a Surging Strikes into that Thunderous.
Oh, look at that. The Thunder Wave went down onto the Rillaboom. That was previously an Incineroar with the Dark typing, would have been immune. So poor Rillaboom, it just can't catch a break. It's always paralyzed. However, Thunderous isn't going to be able to get away with that scot-free. We are going to see the Surging Strikes come through from the Urshifu. It's not going to be able to get a KO, but all that damage could be critical. Rillaboom now in play, maybe is going to be able to try and clean up in the following turn.
And in return, in response, the Surging Strikes from Francesco's Urshifu, again, going to be really taken quite comfortably by Paul's. Now, the scenario here is Francesco to come out, and that combination alone will probably be enough to take down the Thunderous. So you have to be careful. Do you want to use resources without your own Urshifu? If you believe to get it
off, maybe free to try and deal with this Thunderous, unable to get the second paralysis off on the board. At the same time, that paralysis could come through for the Rillaboom, and then Thunderous is going to be able to try again on the next turn. Urshifu, however, of course, going to break through that Detect with its Unseen Fist and go for another Surging Strikes. They're not doing a huge amount of damage, and considering grassy terrain's in effect as well, it's going to be able to regain a little bit of that HP, maybe put it back into the green zone, but it's still being whittled away out. Something like a Wild Bolt Storm is going to be able to get some good damage onto it if it was able to come through.
Yeah, well, that's the other option there. You could go for the priority, or you could just say, well, that keep Paul like
this Urshifu on Paul's side. You've got rid of the a perfect target for a Surging Strikes.
Yeah, and now with the Incineroar positioned so well in the back, Paul has the ability to just switch it in here and drop that Intimidate, lower those attacks, mitigate that into the Rillaboom. So really good Surging Strikes in here and mitigate the fact that there is the threat of that Heat Crash into the Rillaboom. So a really good switch here. The only problem doing that is that Francesco could see through that, maybe go for a Surging Strikes into that slot, but no switches, no changes. Grassy Glide into the Urshifu.
Is this Rillaboom even paralyzed? It's breaking through every time, using its priority to bypass the speed deficit it gets from the paralysis to get some good damage down onto that Urshifu. Close combat is going to follow up though and finish the job. So Paul able to get rid.
Now is also with the Incineroar. It's going to be very useful into the Gouging Fire. It all depends on this partnering Pokemon, and it is another Dragon. It is the Dragonite here that's really going to benefit from those Howls if you can get them going in these next few turns.
That's the thing, Dragonite's going to Chua has in the back. That Raging Bolt is going to be really eyeing up that Dragonite for later.
Yeah, I think if you can get the Howl off here and look at the Dragonite's moveset, it's got some nice options. It's got that Scale Shot, so it can boost its own speed. I don't suspect Paul has brought that Fluttermane in. We don't know the final Pokemon yet, so it could be lurking in the back. You've got to be careful about that. But it also could be that Raging Bolt that could come in and be susceptible to those Scale Shots. So the Dragonite, perfect here to apply a lot of pressure, taking advantage of these Howls that's coming out. Francesco saying, I'm not done yet. Here we go, let's boost this attack.
Yeah, you called it, Lee. The Howl was the perfect opportunity. Dragonite, however, did have to take that Intimidate to the Scale Shot. Not going to be dealing as much damage as it wants to, but it's still going to try whittling away at this Incineroar. It has that loaded dice, so we know it's going to hit 4 times, but is it going to be able to get the little bit of extra with that 5th turn?
Yeah, there we go. It is going to hit into the Incineroar 5 times. It will activate the Citrus Berry, I believe, on the Incineroar here, so it should restore a little bit of that health back that it has lost. But maybe not quite enough. So the Citrus Berry is still going to be intact, but that 5th hit, all important, and now still in another position where that speed boost has put it ahead of the Urshifu now. You have to be careful because the Fake Out is going to be active here, so both Pokemon have to be a bit tentative, not to overextend themselves too much, because a Fake Out and an attack from the Urshifu could be enough to maybe do really impactful damage to that Gouging Fire. You've got to be very careful how you go into
Relentlessly trying to help
damage off.
Well, there goes another Howl. It looks like this Gouging Fire is relentlessly trying to help out the Dragonite, identifying it as maybe Francesco's key for victory. Dragonite goes for another Scale Shot. Oh, Lee, I think if it gets to... Oh, okay. Citrus Berry in play. I was going to say without that, I think the 5th hit would have been able to get the KO. Now you're going to need a couple of critical hits.
Yeah, you are. I think, it's going to be very
it is going to be still so close.
Very, very close. If we get down to this 5th hit, I think it's going to be touch and go. Whether this Incineroar drops... Oh, it's only 4 hits this time around, unfortunately, for Francesco. So the Incineroar is allowed to hang about. Another speed boost for that Dragonite here. Surging Strikes coming out is breaking that multi-skill on the Dragonite here, which is very useful going later into this game. Not doing as much damage as probably Paul would like, but he's going to be patient here. I think you have to be in this scenario. There's only 2 Pokemon left for Francesco's side, and the options are limited for what you can do. Useful Parting Shot, going to lower that attack 1 stage, so it's back down to +1 now. No, neutral now, rather than being a bit more of a threat.
But I think the critical thing is as well, not only do you bring it back down to neutral, but you can bring that Rillaboom potentially in at the back and have Fake Out once again, or you can bring your 4th and final Pokemon, that Raging Bolt, on both of the Dragons on the opposing side. Look at their shocked reactions. That is not what they wanted to see.
That is not at all. And the Grassy Terrain ending at the perfect time where the Rillaboom leaves the field. It's going to be able to come back onto the field, set that up again, and just stack up with that leftovers recovery that the Raging Bolt's got access to. And the ability to pressure both of these Dragons now with that Dragon Pulse is huge for Paul, and that's where be able to execute.
Still worry about HP we set up to try.
Concentrate and go on for those easier for some of the other members on the team that can put a bit more pressure on this Gouging Fire. As you see the Incineroar switch in, that Intimidate drop once again, so important just to mitigate those howls that the Gouging Fire is continually throwing out onto their side of the field.
We talked about how the Eerie Impulses were important on Francesco's side, but the Intimidates on Incineroar with the Paul Chua side are turning out to be even stronger. Thunderclap priority comes through, doesn't get the KO on the Dragonite, but manages to make that call. Dragonite, however, the Scale Shot misses. Oh no, it doesn't, it's just not affected. And then Breaking Swipe also not going to be affected into that Raging Bolt, but will connect into that Incineroar.
What an amazing Terastallization here, getting immunity to those 2 Dragon-type attacks, rendering that turn. So Paul Chua will be moving into our finals here at the European International Championships.
Paul Chua in 2023 was able to take the title on
I mean, to be fair, like I don't. Chu was kind of correct. He might. I think we watched the final, right? He wins this whole. This is only day 2, though. I think he ends up winning this whole thing. These are 2 different people. But, yeah. Interesting. Okay. I think I think we try I think we try Francisco's team. For some reason he didn't make it work. Does it not seem like it's meant to beat this team? It seems like this is a perfect. I don't know. It seems like this is too perfect for it. But I think you try Francisco's team. You can try it on like Showdown first or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I mean I don't think I'd be able to build it in game to like play, but like quick enough to be quite honest. I think this season's over. I think this season's over like at the end of March. Oh my God. Wait, there's a grand challenge this weekend? Oh no. Wait, it literally starts. I have to sign up in 20. I have to sign up in 25 minutes. Okay. I think we sign up with what we have. Oh my God. How am I just not seeing this? I think we sign up with what we have. And then I guess we stream tomorrow. I don't know how this team. So it's not this team, but it is. I wish it was this team. It's this team. Um, we'll see how we do. But I have to sign up for it like now. Holy shit. Bro, there's literally a. Holy shit. It's literally tomorrow. That's so insane. Okay, I guess. Okay. Oh no. Oh, I can't even sign up for it. Okay, we missed another one. Oh yeah, we definitely. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're in EST. Okay. 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 Well, I already started. Missed another one. That's great. I wasn't actually ready for this one though. The fuck? I keep missing these, man. It's so upsetting. Well, what I was gonna look at was when this Seattle regionals on the 28th, and then San Juan. Okay. Well, I was just gonna look at when this regulation was over. Oh yeah, March 31st. So yeah, I mean, I don't I don't know if I'll have like an entirely new team ready by then. I also don't know if they announced a new regulation. They might do it at the beginning of March. And then maybe we can set up wait. Yeah, we can maybe just play some ranked over the weekend or something. I don't know. But anywho, that's it for stream. I actually streamed for a pretty long time today. Thanks for watching. Damn, that's crazy. We could not make it into this we could not make it into this grand challenge yet again, by the way. Yet again. Next one for sure, boys. Next one for sure. I didn't expect one in like just the next month, but okay. That was good. I think we're gonna try. We're gonna try. We're gonna try Francisco's team on like Showdown at some point. I think. Just to like get some practice in, I guess. And then I think we go next on the next regulation. This regulation's tough. Also, I mean, like, when is like Scarlet and Violet? This shit's like we gotta go next to the Pokemon like Champions thing. Like, when is this coming out? Like, and like. It's supposed to be it's supposed to be used for Worlds. Yeah. I mean, you can literally just change. I guess it costs points, but you can like do all that shit like in the game. Yeah, okay. Okay. I mean, yeah. I think we finish Legends first. I think we gotta like I think we go next and get ready for Megas, to be 100% honest. To be 100% honest. But yeah, 'cause I mean this is gonna be, I mean, like it confirmed like the first set of rules for ranked battles on the Pokemon Champions. We would be able to go undergo Mega Evolution. Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty crazy format. I do love Terras, but Mega Evolution's pretty fucking sick. But this will just change up the meta like entirely, obviously. Entirely. Okay. Okay. GG's. Let's see you guys later. I'll probably be streaming. I don't know when. I don't know when, but probably soon. I'll let you know in Discord. Join Discord if you haven't already. Blah blah blah. Okay. Bye.